across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning and welcome to Morning Glory. It's coming up to 3 minutes past 6. I'm Mike Graham and we are here for the duration, ladies and gentlemen. It is Wednesday the 6th of August and the sun is out. There's a lovely sunrise actually going on. It's cheered us all up here at the world headquarters of Common Sense. We've been looking out at the great red ball as it rises in the east and gets ready to sort of soar over the city of London and go and then set in the west, where Heathrow Airport, of course, is the final destination. The problem, of course, if you were trying to get to Heathrow Airport yesterday, was that you couldn't. The tunnel was shut. Once again, a technical error, according to those people in the know, shut down the entire airport terminals 2 and 3. And if you were trying to get to them by any means other than by train, you simply couldn't. People were walking under ladders, people were walking under tunnels, people were walking along the road. And once again, I think for 2 or 3 hours, the whole airport was in absolute and utter chaos. I mean, when is somebody going to stand up in this country and say, do you know what? Nothing actually works at all. Can somebody please fix that? Instead of having old Keir Starmer popping up every now and again, fixing the foundations. Never mind fixing the bleeding foundations, mate. Can you just make sure the country does what it says on the tin, i.e., welcome to the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, where everything works, where you can get a train when it says it's going to go somewhere, where you can get in a car and you won't be stuck in traffic for the rest of your life, where you can actually, manage to get a plane which doesn't land in Amsterdam instead of London because they've shut down the airspace. Would you mind awfully just fixing the country? Never mind about bloody Gaza, never mind about helping Ukraine, right? Can you mind helping people who live in this country, in Britain, who were born here and who would like to pay their taxes and get something back in return? It's a simple question, it's a simple request. That's before we even talk about the news this morning. Theo Usherwood is here. Theo, very good morning to you. I'm sorry for going off on a rant completely about nothing in particular, but it's just like, for Christ's sake, can we just get somebody who knows how to run anything, to run the bloody thing? Can we do that, please? Is that all right? Anyway, meanwhile, migrants can use the rights laws, human rights laws, to evade deportation. So day one of the old migrant tracker, there we go, 48,678 people in since Keir Starmer became the Prime Minister. It turns out that their one-in, one-out scheme has already evaporated before your very eyes. It's only been going for about 24 hours, and already the loopholes are going to undermine the treaty, according to the front page of the Times. Absolutely incredible stuff. Meanwhile, Rachel Reeves is back in the news, front page of the Daily Telegraph. She's been told by various economists, I don't know who these people think they are, by the way, that she must raise taxes now to fix a £50 billion black hole. Excuse me, I thought they inherited a £22 billion black hole. They've now managed to double it and make it into a £50 billion black hole. So well done to Rachel Reeves, the first woman Chancellor who's completely kiboshed the economy. She's on course apparently to miss the targets as finances head deeper into the red. Front page of the Daily Mail goes the same way. Reeves facing huge tax hikes to fill a £50 billion black hole. A dire warning issued to Rachel Reeves. Front page of the Sun has got a similar story on tax rises and cuts, but equally they've got the Match of the Day legend Gary Lineker back on the box. I actually don't care whether Gary Lineker's back on the box, as long as he's not working for the BBC, and it turns out he's not. He's working for ITV. So there's that. There's a story about the Clintons being quizzed about Jeffrey Epstein. They're going to have to appear before a congressional committee. Apparently, Prince Andrew once took Jeffrey Epstein into the royal box at Ascot the same day the Queen was there. It's all a bit bad, isn't it? It's all a bit nasty. Anyway, I've overrun the music already. Sorry about that. Theo, very good morning to you.
Very good, great to see you.
So listen. I guess we kick off with Rachel Reeves today, do we? The black hole. I mean, the migrant story's great. We do it every day, so we'll come back to that.
Well, I was just going to comment on Mystic Mike.
Oh, go on.
Well, just you sat down. What was it? Yesterday lunchtime.
Yesterday lunchtime.
You thought, well, is it going to work? Probably not. Can't see how this is actually going to work in practice. And then Mystic Mike comes good because front page of the Times, of course, migrants can now use human rights laws to evade deportation.
Yeah.
And if they throw their passport over the side of the boat and they've got no way of identifying exactly how old they are, they can claim to be under 18 and they can evade.
And they can evade it. Well, I'd like to say, I've got a piece in the Sun today on page 10, and without wishing to blow my own trumpet, this is my favourite paragraph. It's the third paragraph from the end. Of all the harebrained schemes to smash the gangs, stop the boats, fix the system and secure our borders, yes, Sir Keir Starmer has promised to do all four. This is perhaps the worst of all. And it is. Yeah. It turns out that it actually is the worst idea they've ever had, which is quite a thing.
But this was the deal. This was the deal struck with the French President Emmanuel Macron, and it's unworkable. And they may be able to do it initially, right, because what is it, 50 migrants, something like 50 migrants a week, right? It's nothing compared to the scale of the problem we face.
It's 1/17th, isn't it, of the numbers coming?
Yeah, right. But the whole point is that this was a pilot scheme. We were told. The Prime Minister stood there and said, well, look, if this goes well, then we can expand the scheme.
Yeah.
But there are so many cases using various articles of the European Convention on Human Rights that are blocking up the court system. They'll soon come unstuck. And they'll soon run out of people who are eligible. And it's also worth remembering that within all of this, it's a one-in, one-out scheme. So if we send somebody back, we've got to take somebody in.
Well, these are the questions I was asking in the piece that appears in the paper today. You know, because yesterday when Vet Cooper appeared on various, different television channels, not this one, I hasten to add, there was no explanation of exactly how these people were going to be detained. You know, she described them as going to be detained quickly. And you go, well, what does that mean? Does that mean you're detaining them as they come off the boat? Yeah. Does it mean you're going to detain them after you send them to a hotel? Define quickly. And then they would be deported within weeks. And you kind of go, OK, so your original plan, which was to take people off boats, detain them immediately and send them straight back, is clearly not going to work. No. And it's not going to happen. And then it turns out that many of them will be able to actually delay their deportation because they can hire a lawyer, presumably at taxpayers' expense, to make sure that they can stay. So nothing's actually changed. No,
and it's worth...
So one in, one out doesn't matter.
It's worth also remembering the protests aren't, we see the pictures on our television screens, we see the pictures on social media, we see the pictures in our newspapers of people arriving in these dinghies. Yeah. But people, the general public who are infuriated, your listeners who are infuriated by this, aren't at the cliffs of Dover going, look, there's a boat of people arriving. They're at the hotels saying, hang on a moment, what's happened? We've got a problem with our community here, or there isn't enough space in... those are their concerns, right?
Absolutely.
We saw what happened.
Or somebody from inside of the hotel has committed a sex crime against a child.
And there's we saw that up in Epping, and obviously that's a live case at the moment, so we can't comment on it. But that's where the pinch point is. Yeah. And this scheme, if you're saying, okay, well, we've sent somebody back to France, we've now got to accept somebody in who hasn't come across the channel as part of the wider EU scheme to distribute migrants who've arrived from North Africa and from other parts of the world, like Afghanistan, into the European Union. So and that they will be still contributing to the numbers at hotels from Epping all the way up to the north of England and beyond.
Exactly, and that is the problem, and that there is no sense that there's a control being put upon the flow. So the flow continues, the numbers continue to grow, and even if the one in, one out scheme did work, as somebody explained yesterday, who rang in with a voice note, if you get 50,000 coming in and you send 50,000 back, they then give you another 50,000. It's still, the net result is you've got 50,000 more people.
Precisely.
So it's not a clampdown on immigration, it's a sort of a finessing of immigration to the point where you say, well, now we're only inviting people in, by the way, who can now apply online in France to come here. So my contention in the piece in the Sun is that it will actually encourage more people to come to France, because they will know that if they apply online, there's a pretty good chance they'll get in. Yeah. And they'll get in legally. Yes. And presumably they won't even have to come on a small boat, they can just get on a plane.
Yes.
It's insane. It's totally insane. And they still haven't explained how it is that they're going to deport these people once they decide to deport them. How are they sending them back to France? They don't say. No. Are they going back on a boat? Are the Border Force taking them? RNLI taking them? Are they going on the Eurostar? Are they getting on a plane? Nobody knows. And the government doesn't seem to know.
And the other thing is that Emmanuel Macron, as he stood there and he said, well, we've seen the problem in northern parts of France, places like Calais. We've seen those problems right across the United Kingdom, by the way. He's not actually necessarily going to take the hit on this. He's going to pass it on to countries like Spain or Greece or Italy, because, of course, these were the countries into which these people first arrived, and they have an agreement in the European Union that they can send them back there. And that will cause a huge you know, that's going to cause a huge and they may well refuse.
Yes.
And then what happens?
Well, that's the problem. The European Union is not keen on this returns policy at all. Let's have a look at what Keir Starmer put out on his Twitter account last night on the returns to France.
For the very first time, migrants arriving via small boat will be detained and returned to France in short order. In exchange for every return, a different individual will be allowed to come here via a safe route, controlled and legal, subject to strict security checks and only open to those who have not tried to enter the UK illegally. This will show others trying to make the same journey that it will be in vain and that jobs they've been promised in the UK will no longer exist because of the nationwide crackdown we're delivering on illegal working, which is on a completely unprecedented scale.
What's he talking about? You know, nobody wants more people to come in, first of all, right? So that's his first mistake. The idea that he says we're going to get different individuals to come in, oh, great. So another 50,000 people that we don't know from another country who might be bringing relatives with them to do what? I don't know. Go on, benefits.
Their nationwide crackdown on illegal working, what was that? As I remember, that was when the Sun did the story.
That was when they went round to one hotel and lifted a couple of guys with bikes.
And then arranged a meeting, and then got a junior minister in the Home Office to arrange a meeting with Deliveroo and a couple of other delivery companies.
And say,
a week
wave
later.
your finger at them and go, you can't be doing this. You
and
know.
then that nationwide crackdown where they're going to share information about migrant hotels with the delivery companies.
Surely you must have noticed that, you know, now the nationwide crackdown has resulted in all the Deliveroo bikes now being driven by white people. No, actually, sorry. It's the whole thing is a joke, and it's a pathetic, useless, expensive joke because it also means that we're going to be bringing more people into the country, adding to the population, adding to the welfare bill, because they're encouraging families to come. And as I said, if people now can apply online to get into Britain legally, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think less people are going to try or more people are going to try?
It's right.
More people are going to try, and you know this idea that they're all going to be documented. So if you've got a family of 4 from Eritrea who have suddenly, you know, fled their way across North Africa into Spain or into Italy and worked their way across Europe through Germany, through Switzerland, into France, how are you going to document these people? You don't know who they are. No. They could tell you anything. Yeah. I'll tell you what we've got is an amazing piece of footage from Spain, actually, and this is where people are watching, and this is an extraordinary piece of video. Imagine being on holiday, sitting there with your family, kids, you know, digging in the sand,
pina colada
in hand, you know, a couple of cervezas for the grandparents, you know, and then suddenly you look out and you see this as you're sitting on the beach.
Hey. Oui.
This is, I know it sounds mad, this is the kind of thing that's happening. Look, they're trying to catch this guy as he's running up the beach. Yeah. Because they're like, you know, to hell with this, we're not having you just coming to our country. Yeah. And the fact that you see the boat backing away there, as if it's going to go back to... It's a taxi service going back to probably, I don't know, Algeria or somewhere, pick up another 70 and bring them over to southern Spain. It's extraordinary. Yeah. I don't think we've ever seen anything like this.
That sort of brazen.
This brazen, I mean, I remember over the course of the last few years we've seen boats pitching up in Spain and people running off into the distance. But it's just becoming such a massive business now. You know, in truth, you know, let me even give Keir Starmer a little bit of you know, sympathy. I don't think anybody knows what to do about all this. I don't think anybody knows how to stop it. You know, but the only way that you're going to stop it, and I'm sorry to say it this way, is to use military force and to make people frightened of coming. That's the only way you're going to stop it. If you come to our shores, there's a risk you're going to get shot dead. That's about the only way you can do it.
Yeah,
honestly. They did it in Hungary like that, you know, when they used to have people coming in through Serbia from places like Turkey, and the first time that somebody breached a fence, I think, the Hungarian immigration authorities shot a migrant dead, and guess what? They stopped coming.
Yeah. But
I know it sounds harsh, and I'll probably be castigated for it. Absolutely evil, horrible man, what a thing to say. We're now talking, defence of the realm.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Nigel Farage and Reform said. He said it's a national emergency.
It is a national emergency.
But even before you get to that point, Mike, the thing is that these individuals can work in this country.
Yeah.
They get paid. They get comfortable accommodation in this country. We've seen, the Britannia Hotel, which is being used at
we had
£400
footage last week of the Copthorne down in West Sussex in Crawley, where people are living
4-poster beds and PlayStations and all the rest.
Smoking in the rooms, weed grinders, all the rest of it. 3 meals a day. It's great.
So that you can take that element.
Yeah.
You can take that element away. The problem, of course, is it's going to get worse. But then
where do you put them? I think Anne Widdecombe had it right. She said, you forget about the hotels, you build detention camps, basically, and you put people in detention camps until they can be sort of properly examined as to whether they've got a right to be here. We've got to do away with all this nonsense from the ECHR, which says that everybody's got a right to a family and a right to live in whichever country they want. This is something which has now reached such critical mass that this country is on the brink of collapse as a result of this kind of mad immigration policy.
The other thing they can do, and I know it's unpopular, but the other thing they can do, this is what the French do quite successfully, is they have ID cards.
Yeah.
So when the police pull somebody over, show your ID card,
right.
They can scan the ID card, they know exactly what rights that person has. You go to a hospital, where's your ID card? Yes, you have rights.
Right. So what happens if you don't have the ID card?
Then they detain you.
And then they send you where?
But that, you're right.
That's my point.
That's another part of the problem.
That's another part of the problem. It's all very well to say, all right, we know who you are. However, if you don't have the right to be there and you don't have the right to the services that you're accessing, how do you get sent out of the country? And at the moment, again, as I said, there's no apparent plan for Yvette Cooper's, deportation scheme to work. How are we sending these people back to France? Nobody knows, and they won't say.
And the other thing is that, and Boris Johnson, I know, has commented on it. It's in the Mail this morning that Trump's now
sending people to Rwanda.
That was another huge.
Right.
That was another huge part of it.
Yeah.
Now that might only be a small scheme, but if you could set up multiple versions of the Rwanda scheme, then you could end up in a situation where actually I think from what I've seen, you need to get to you only get to the deterrent effect when you get to when it gets to about 8 in 10.
Right.
8 in 10 are deported back, right? So I think Rwanda was something like 250.
Well, look at what Donald Trump's done.
Scheme.
Trump has managed to put the fear of God into people, whether or not, and I was talking to somebody about this yesterday, and they said, but a lot of what Trump says, I think it was Dan Hodges, doesn't actually happen, but his rhetoric is that if you come to America and you're not welcome here, we will send you straight back and you will never come in again.
You go to
Alligator Alcatraz, and so the sort of the fear of that has meant that people have stopped coming. Yeah. So that when he was in Turnberry, he was able to say to Starmer, how many people came into the US last month illegally? None. Not one.
Because they didn't.
Because they're frightened. And you've got to frighten them. I'm sorry. It's the only thing that people understand at the end of the day. Fear. If you fear what might happen to you, you won't do it. But if you don't fear it, of course you're going to do it. It's 6:20. We've got loads to talk about. Theo Usherwood is here. If these human rights lawyers, says Carl, weren't being paid by the public purse, they wouldn't be there. That would help to halt the flow of these foreigners. Yes. And Dean says, surely the European Court of Human Rights is misnamed. After all, it certainly seems to totally ignore the human rights of the British and European people. Says Dean from Dagenham. Yeah, absolutely right. Listen, keep those calls coming in. We haven't even started on Rachel Reeves yet because she's back in the news. Let's get Andy on the French deal.
Morning, Mike. Morning, Theo. Andy from Birmingham. Just stuck in traffic forever on the M6 again. Bloody hell, why do I bother? I was on social media yesterday and John Renton kept on urging everybody, read it first, read it before you comment on it. This immigration, this pilot scheme, as they're saying. Well, I've read it, and it's quite possibly the worst thing I've ever read. Net migration's not going to go down at all. And we're paying for everything, apparently. We're paying to get them from France. We're paying to take them back if we do take them back. It's just a fluff again. There's no will in this government whatsoever to stop this. You could stop it within weeks if you want. Well, if Donald Trump could stop it, and ours is a minute scale compared to his, it's just kicking the can down the road. And the Home Secretary is a disgrace yesterday. Absolute disgrace. Anyway, it's a nice day, mate, so let's enjoy. See you later, bud.
Andy, thanks very much indeed. How can you be in a traffic jam at 6:20 in the morning? in Birmingham on the M6. I mean, crikey, poor old Andy. And he's right, you know, we'll play the clip later on in the hour. Yvette Cooper yesterday, they just waffle on and say what they think we want to hear.
But they're not prepared. They're not prepared to take, and this is going to be the painful bit of it. They are not prepared to take the difficult decisions.
No.
There is a way out of it.
Yeah.
But you have to be prepared to say to the, you know, we are leaving the European Convention on Human Rights. We're prepared just to put that to one side.
And there will be no appeal process. If you come here illegally, you will not have the right to a lawyer. You will not have the right to argue your case in court.
Yeah.
You will be put straight on a plane and you will be sent back to France forthwith. Not quickly, not soon, not in a week, not in a few weeks, which is what they've been saying, you know, straight away. Anyway, listen, we'll come back, because we were going to start talking about Rachel Reeves, but we haven't got there yet. Theo Usherwood has derailed me. It's fine, it's perfectly fine. Of course, I couldn't big up myself in the sun, but you've done a very good job of it. 23 minutes past 6, back after this.
Been lied to about how many people are coming to the country, and that won't be revealed. And then we're lied about what effect the immigrants have when they come to this country. And it's only very recently, now that the public is getting angrier and angrier about this, so we're beginning to find out that if you're an Afghan asylum seeker here, you are 20 times more likely to be charged with a sexual offence than if you're a British. Indigenous British.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 6:26. I'm Mike Graham. Theo Usherwood is here with us as well. We've got loads to do this morning, plenty of stories to talk about. I thought we'd make a little sort of retrek, if you like, back to what was said yesterday. The news coming from America, by the way, is that Florida has doubled down on alligator Alcatraz, and they're going to build a second migrant centre, presumably with more alligators. And again, as Dan Hodges said yesterday, it doesn't really matter if the alligators actually attack anyone. It's just the idea that people go, oh, crikey, I don't really want to be, you know, surrounded in a swamp by alligators in case they decide to come and eat me.
And it's much cheaper because you don't need the barbed wire.
And you don't need the barbed wire. Exactly right. Let's get a voice note from Nick.
Morning, Mike and Theo. Nick from Loughborough. When Yvette Cooper talks about these illegals being detained, nobody knows what she means. Where, specifically, where does she intend to detain them? Or is she just going to stick them all in hotels as she's currently doing so? Anyway, I don't know, and the country is confused. Have a good day, guys.
Exactly right. Well, let's ask Yvette Cooper, because this is what she said yesterday about how this one-in, one-out scheme is actually going to work. Have a look at this.
The first time people who arrive on these dangerous and illegal small boats can be returned to France. They will be first detained. They'll be detained immediately on arrival and then detained and held until they are returned to France. And in exchange, we will take people who have applied lawfully, who have been through security checks and a proper legal process. I think that is the right principle. We're not setting out what the numbers will be at this point for two reasons. First of all, because those numbers will vary and will increase, and we haven't fixed an overall number for the scheme. We obviously want it to increase as much as possible. But also, secondly, because we're not going to provide operational information about which numbers, which days that the criminal gangs will then simply use in order to continue to ply their vile trade in human beings.
I mean, it's just word salad, isn't it, at the end of the day?
It doesn't make sense.
It means nothing.
It
means nothing. Deporting people, which she's already conceded she can't do because many of them will challenge it in the courts. You know, arresting people, no. Detaining people, where? You know, there's so many questions and no answers.
So when people arrive in this country, usually on a border force boat or on a RNLI or whatever, they are already under the control of the authorities. They are then placed into hotels. From listening to what the Home Secretary said in that particular clip, she seems to be implying that there will be an assessment at that point when they arrive in this country as to whether they can be deported. But that isn't correct.
No, but also at what point? At the point at which they disembark from, or jump off the dinghy? Is that when they're going to be assessed? Is it going to be when they get to a hotel? Is that when they're going to be assessed? They don't say.
So you would look at this and you would say, well, actually, you can get an exemption at any particular point.
Right.
Because you can say, well, you can't prove that I'm under 18, I'm under 18, therefore I'm not eligible for this scheme. I'm now launching, you know, a legal case because I'm claiming.
And you can also claim to be vulnerable. You can claim all of the things you can claim now. I can't be sent back to where I come from because I'm frightened of being persecuted for being homosexual, or for being, you know, a divorcee, or for being, you know, a sex toy salesman, or, you know, all the things we've already seen happening. Or you just say I'm a Nigerian storyteller, and then you get in on a visa scheme. The whole thing is to cock. It's absolutely useless. Let's move on just for the moment. As much as the migrant story, we want to hear from you all on it because it's still the biggest story in town. But Rachel Reeves now is back on the front pages. Front page of the Sun and the Telegraph. Chancellor Rachel Reeves must find £50 billion in tax rises or spending cuts to shore up Britain's battered finances. This is according to some economic experts. I'm not keen on these economic experts that say raise taxes because the people don't want her to raise taxes. Find some other way. So this is a report out from the National Institute of Economic and Social Research, which is actually quite sort of right-leaning. It's not quite the same as the Institute for Fiscal Studies. It's more on the right. I don't know if they're advocating increasing taxes, but they're saying that there is a black hole of. They're saying there's no choice. There's no choice, right? And one of the reasons there's no choice, Mike, is because the Chancellor's ruled out cutting spending. She can't cut spending because her backbenchers won't allow it. She tried to cut it by £5 billion a year on welfare. But even that was a sort of a pithy attempt because it wasn't really about cutting spending, was it? It was about not spending more in the future. It was about not spending an extra £5 billion, you know? But in the sums baked in to try and save the money over the course of the Parliament, she balked. She couldn't do it because the backbenchers wouldn't allow her to do it. And she's got these ironclad fiscal rules, which means that we can't borrow for day-to-day spending. That's in order to keep the money men and women in the City of London happy, so they don't have a complete revolt and we end up with having to go to the cap in hand to the IMF, which I think at this point is probably quite a distinct, quite likely, distinct possibility. So she's going to have. But what I think infuriate your listeners about this is that, you know, last autumn when she increased taxes by £40 billion, they promised
cast iron promise. They wouldn't come back with a budget like that again.
No, exactly.
They wouldn't. Yes, there may be tax rises in the future, but they wouldn't increase taxes like that again. This is going to be even worse.
Well, exactly
when this
right.
budget comes
because
out.
they can't stick to anything, right? They say one thing and they do another. Let's have a look at what Rachel Reeves said back in July about tax rises.
Well, I'm not going to start speculating or setting out plans. No Chancellor would ever do that. So the things in our manifesto, they remain our commitments. And when we've got a date for the budget, then we will start working on plans for that. I've been very clear as well, and we were in our manifesto, that the fiscal rules are non-negotiable. They are what give working people security around interest rates, for example. And interest rates have come down 4 times in the last year under this Labour government because of the stability that we've managed to return to the economy.
I mean, is she literally taking the mickey out of the country now? Because she's doing that thing where she smiles, and if you smile when you're talking, it makes it all so much better. I'd forgotten how useless she is. I'd literally forgotten. Watching her again, you just kind of go, "Yeah, what's wrong with you?"
But we're here because of those choices. We're in a doom loop.
We are.
So we raise taxes.
It's not even a loop anymore. It's just
a spiral.
Straight down, into the floor.
But by increasing taxes, we hit business confidence. They're not investing. They're not taking people on. They're cutting back on costs. That's making it therefore.
Story today says 1,000 pubs have shut since her budget in November. 1,000 pubs.
That's 1,000 pubs where they're not paying any national insurance now because they're not paying any.
No VAT.
No VAT on no alcohol duty.
No,
that's just
nothing.
money lost.
Yeah.
The point, and this was the point that Donald Trump was making to Starmer when he was at Turnberry, was you cut taxes.
Yeah.
Businesses want to invest.
Yeah.
They want to spend money. They want to expand
Generate
their
some
operations.
growth.
People actually want to set up businesses because it's suddenly much more alluring. It's much more, it's worth taking the risk, whereas previously it may not have been. And then you end up with people just paying a fair amount, a decent amount of national insurance or income tax or business rates or whatever it might be into the coffers, and you end up with more money.
Yeah.
Now we're in a situation where we have less money coming into the Treasury.
Yeah.
And all of these spending commitments.
And every single manoeuvre that the government have made to raise taxes has had the absolute reverse effect. So they're actually netting less income from the tax burden that they're putting on the public than they've ever done.
We're seeing consumer confidence hit. Many people would make decisions not to go out and spend money.
It's shocking.
It's
absolutely
and
shocking.
That's why we're in this mess. This isn't. It's not an accident. Don't let anybody.
No.
Don't listen to that and think. Nobody should listen to that and think, oh, they're doing really well, and it just hasn't gone quite to plan.
Listen to what she said.
That was a mistake.
She literally just said in that interview in July, the stability in the economy has been created by us, and we've brought interest rates down 4 times. One, nothing to do with the government. The interest rates have come down, and the economy is not stable. No. So again, more lies. Maybe we should remind ourselves of why Rachel Reeves was chosen for the job.
It will also be the first budget delivered by a woman ever. That is a moment of pride. When Rachel Reeves stands up, she will be making history. And I can tell you, young women and girls across the country will be watching, they will look up, and they will notice.
Yeah, and they'll say, what a complete and utter numpty that bloke is. I mean, 10 months earlier, he didn't know what a woman was. No. Now he's suddenly making one the Chancellor. Brilliant. Well played. We've got much more to do, including Gary Lineker back on the front pages. He's left Match of the Day. He's going to host a new Saturday night show on ITV. Lineker back on the box, it says, and his visage staring out at us. Also, we'll be talking about Marks and Spencer's. Apparently, they're back in the deep doo-doo because a trans worker apparently tried to help a young girl aged 14 put a bra on. And lots of people are not happy about that, including J.K. Rowling. Also, civil service sickness rates are soaring. They're not coming back to work. And Angela Rayner's war with Jeremy Corbyn over allotment. That's a bit weird. 6:36.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. I'm Mike Graham. It's 6:38. Theo Usherwood is here with us as well. Rachel says, morning, Mike and Theo. I know this might sound like a stupid question, so forgive me in advance, but if you are genuinely an asylum seeker, truly fleeing persecution and conflict, then why dispose of your passport? It would only serve to back up your account, wouldn't it? Well, yeah, I think so. I think, you know, if it's one thing to say I never had a passport, I basically, you know, fled from my country with the clothes that I'm wearing and the shoes that I could manage to grab out of the box on the way out, and I don't have my passport because I couldn't find it. That's one thing. But most of the people we know have actually chucked their passport into the water with their phones. Let's get a voice note from Phil.
Phil here from the northwest of England. Just a thought, these 50 that are going back to France, what are the French going to do with them when they get there? Now, if I was a betting man, I would say that these 50 would end up back in the camps and back on our shores with a matter of weeks, because the French don't want them, which will then just set off a merry-go-round of 50 people going back and forth across the channel, and the numbers actually never going down, but just increasing day after day, when more and more and more of them make that crossing.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, one of the things, again, that I say in my piece in The Sun is that by telling people they can now apply to come here legally, regardless of what their circumstances are, regardless of where they've come from, as long as they've got proof of identity and perhaps some kind of link to the country, then more people are going to come. So it's actually going to encourage people to come to this country in even greater numbers, isn't it?
There's just another point just to add to what Phil was saying as part of this scheme, is that they will be, you know, the French don't particularly want these people, so they're going to distribute these, they're going to be distributed amongst other countries within the European Union. That's why we know there's already a significant amount of opposition, particularly from countries like Greece, Spain and Italy. Yeah. But you're right to say, once they've been sent on to those countries, there is nothing to then stop them travelling back through France and then to, you know, as it's become known in those circles as El Dorado, back to the UK because of the pull factors that we've been discussing.
Because as long as they get here, they know that they will never have to leave, and they know that they will be looked after and they will be provided for. Because there's no explanation in any kind of Labour policy document that I can see that if we say that Keir Starmer says these are people that deserve to come here because they've come through legal routes, right? When they get here, how are they going to live? Are they going to be supported by the taxpayer? Are they going to be given a home? Are they going to be put in a hotel? Are they going to be put in some kind of migrant camp? You know, how exactly are they going to have the ability to eat? Are they, you know, going to be subsidised? Are they going to be given money? You know what I mean? It's just like it's completely.
You think that at some point, once those people have arrived in this country, that they would in fairly short order receive leave to remain in this country,
yes, but
even if it's temporary, and that will enable them to work.
But they'll also, if they can't find work, they'll be on benefits.
Yes.
You know.
Yes, I'm not disputing you.
I mean, they should find work. A condition of them coming here should be that you find work and that you have work and you don't get benefits for 5 years or something like that. But that's not what they're saying. They're saying, come to Britain and we'll sort of take it from there, which inevitably will mean that you'll have to probably get benefits. Let's talk about Gary Lineker, who doesn't need any benefits. He's on the front page of The Sun this morning, 3 months after his BBC exit, exclusive by Clemmy Moody. Gary Lineker is to return to Saturday Night TV, hosting a new ITV game show called The Box.
Yes, I've got a bit of a problem with this.
Have you?
Yeah, I've got a bit of a problem with this. Because you know, towards the end of his career at the BBC, like when he reposted that particular image, that anti-Semitic image, he apologised, and then he did this sort of.
And he made out it was a mistake.
And then he made out it was a mistake. Well, he initially made out it was a mistake. Then he apologised amid the furore, and now he's got a plum gig or looking like he's going to get a plum job at ITV. And I'm not. What's the message? Are we saying that's okay? Right. Because from what he said, it wasn't okay, and now he's got a great job at ITV. I mean, and I would have thought that given the severity of the stuff that he tweeted, or he shared, I think it was on Instagram even. Yeah. But given the severity of what would be that actually another broadcaster like ITV wouldn't want to employ him, but it appears not.
Well, it appears that, as ever with television, hypocrisy is the rule of thumb. And, ITV, don't forget, are sacking like hundreds of people at the moment because they haven't got any money. But they've obviously found some money to pay Gary Lineker. I am less concerned about Gary Lineker working for ITV than I am about him working for the BBC. When he worked for the BBC, he should have behaved in a way that was, exemplary, and he shouldn't have been saying the things that he was saying on social media. If he's working for ITV, that's a different ballgame. But I would suggest that they're probably getting themselves into a bit of a hot water situation, because you know exactly what's going to happen. He'll tweet something and there'll be a problem. And it won't be because he's publicly funded, but it'll be because ITV don't like controversy.
Yeah,
because they've shied away from it for years.
But if they're giving him this box program that he wants to, that they want him to
12
present.
celebrities are going to be put in boxes and given daring challenges. Sounds awful.
But it's not my cup of tea.
Absolutely
but he's
awful.
going to, ITV need to accept he's going to be, a major, given his status, he's going to be a major face of their channel. And to your point, what happens when the next round of tweets or misses or social media posts come about?
I know, that'll be interesting. And then otherwise, just in the world of TV, anti-Semitic incidents have hit a 6-month high, a day after punk duo Bob Dylan's controversial Glastonbury gig. This is on page 16 of The Sun. A total of 26 people were reported after rapper Bobby Dylan chanted death, death to the IDF during his set at Glastonbury. Nothing seems to have happened about this, right? I'm not even sure if he's been questioned by the police. Tim Davie seems to have dodged another bullet and still remains as chief of the BBC, even though he was the guy that actually said that the set, which was incredibly offensive and anti-Semitic, should be streamed live. The BBC don't seem to have sacked anybody for it. I think they've sort of shuffled around a few of the deck chairs of the Titanic and moved a couple of people from live music coverage, but basically he hasn't been arrested, he hasn't been charged with anything. Incitement of violence. There's a woman called Lucy Connolly sitting in a prison cell, having put a tweet out which was taken down after 3 hours. This guy broadcast to the world practically death to the IDF, and he's still walking around. How does that work?
I don't know. I don't know, but if you think back, Mike, to it got lost. Everybody was talking about ITV and some dimwit's decision to broadcast this, to live stream this particular part of the concert with these anti-Semitic chants. Right? They made that decision to do it. But what got lost was that this was a man who stood up on stage and was making death chants to tens of thousands of people,
and plus the people watching it live,
and all of the people, and that has an effect, because that acts. If those idiots are watching that and thinking, oh well, look at him, well, he's so dirty, what a great guy, that's going to translate into anti-Jewish hatred.
Actual harm,
and people getting hurt, and people being attacked or abused in the street. It's not a zero-sum game. It doesn't just disappear into the ether.
No.
And the police are saying, well, say inquiries are continuing in relation to the comments. They should be taking a really hard line.
Which inquiries exactly are they?
Why? When did it happen at the end of June? It's nearly 6 weeks on.
Let's cut to the Glastonbury Police Department, where they're all sitting there going, all right, how's it going then? There's a bloke over there who's grown a thorn. It's a bit bigger than it ought to be, but it's some kind of Joseph.
This is my favourite impression of all your impressions.
Joseph of Arimathea was here, a few years ago, and we didn't arrest him because he was walking on water and all that. And you go, what are you doing? What's the inquiry? There he is on stage saying death to the IDF, inciting violence. Why have you not arrested him? Well, it's a bit quiet today. We haven't got anybody in. What's going on?
Well, they're scared. They're scared.
Why? What are they scared of?
They don't want to inflame.
They don't want to arrest anyone.
Tensions.
They're the police. You know what I mean? It's like ridiculous.
They don't want it.
I don't know.
That would be the only assumption. Either that, or they're literally, as you, I think, insinuating, a bunch of country bumpkins sitting in a cornfield twiddling their thumbs because they've never come across any criminal
arresting
case.
people for making crop circles around the Glastonbury tour. Never mind this guy. Maggie says this one in, one out isn't going to work. We're going to import most of Afghanistan, Eritrea, Sudan, etc. Our country will change beyond recognition. Where will they all live? I give in. It's a very good point. We keep, whatever this one in, one out bollocks is, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it. My apologies for this early in the morning. The point is that there's more people coming in. There's nowhere for them to live. There's nowhere for them to go. No. There's no space anymore. We haven't got any bandwidth. We can't take any more people in. Starmer's answer to that is, let's bring some more people in.
Yeah.
Right? Just ridiculous. Let's get a voice note from Phil. No, we've done Phil. Oh, sorry. My apologies. I'll tell you what, we'll take a break. We'll come back after this.
They belong in the wild. They don't belong, behind bars in urban environments for us to gawp at them. We know there's enough scientific evidence to show that those animals really suffer a lot of stress. They often get obesity problems, they get various other health-related problems, and their life expectancy is far shorter than what it would be in the wild. So, there's a very good case to say actually their time has come. And a lot of these organisations that run these zoos are struggling financially in Britain and around the world. And I think this is probably another case of a zoo that's trying to hide its broader animal welfare and income problems.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 6:51. I'm Mike Graham, and we are here, myself and Theo Usherwood, looking through the papers. And this morning, a couple of things we haven't yet mentioned, so let's try and get to them. Front page of the Times, an investigation they've done. Always good investigations they do at the Times. Oliver Wright, George Greenwood, David Wood, Paul Morgan Bentley as well, head of investigations. Government faces questions over cash for access after a Times investigation found that businesses have been offering private meetings with an influential Labour figure, apparently, as part of a sponsorship package costing £9,500. I mean, I would not pay you 9.5 pence to spend time with an influential Labour figure, but I suppose some people are stupid enough to do it.
There must be one.
There really, literally isn't one. No. I mean, I would make them pay me. I would make them pay me. If Keir Starmer wants to give me 10 grand for a meeting, I'll take the 10 grand. But I'm not giving him any money.
Right, yeah. I mean,
because what would you get out of it?
The hypocrisy.
Fixing the foundations.
No.
Rachel Reeves, I mean, I wouldn't pay her, I wouldn't give her any money.
No. But this is, I mean, this is how the parties finance themselves, and they're in danger, of course, falling into the same trap as they criticise the Tories for this kind of thing, of this cash for access. And it turns out the companies have been sent a prospectus with a list of sponsorship packages, including a deal costing £7,850 plus VAT for private breakfast or dinner round table with an influential Labour figure. They've also been offered the chance to pay £11,750 for a parliamentary panel event with key policymakers.
Right.
The important point, and it's worth never losing
They shouldn't be
sight
doing
of,
this, in other words, right?
They shouldn't be doing this, but the important point is that when Labour or any political party does this, they have to accept that in return for the money, businesses or individuals who have that kind of cash to pay for that kind of access don't simply just want to turn up, Mike, and sit down and just like have a chat about the weather or
a couple of croissants and coffee.
Couple of croissants. They expect something in return.
Yeah.
They expect to be able to influence policy. They have worries and concerns that bother them.
And if there's a current sort of conversation going on about, I don't know, VAT rates in particular industry, you know, they want to get it done to the best of their capabilities, right?
But of course, the danger is that, you know, this is the Labour Party's close links, and it will be the Labour Party that can potentially profit from this, where, of course, the individuals that hold the meetings are in government, and they are there to serve not just the Labour Party,
it's corrupt,
but everybody.
Isn't it? At the end of the day, I mean, without wishing to accuse anybody of corruption, it's a corrupt practice, shall we say? You know, because what it does is it gives people access because they've got money to influence government policy. Yeah. I mean, there's one piece here where it says a lobbyist told an undercover reporter about a meeting that he had one of his clients had with Jonathan Reynolds, the business secretary, aka the fake solicitor. You know, I wouldn't want a meeting with him either. You know, other than to just, you know, sit in a room and abuse him for 5 minutes and go, you know, get lost. You know, I'll give you 500 quid, come in, and I'll call you a liar and a man who told us that you were a solicitor when you actually weren't. Now you can go. Thanks very much.
It's unclear as to where the money is.
I'll pay 500 quid for that, actually, I would. I could offer it
but
to you.
Where's the money? It's unclear, in fact, where the money's going.
Well, it's clearly going into the coffers, presumably, of the government, right?
Yeah, or of the government or the Labour Party.
Well, either or. Either or.
You know, they're not...
Let's talk about the civil service. Piece of the time. Civil service is losing more than 4 million working days to staff sickness every single year. This is unbelievable. Yeah. Absence rates have risen by more than 10% in some departments. Latest figures suggest Whitehall is on track to report its highest ever staff sickness level, surpassing the previous peak of 8.3 days a year lost per employee. That's unbelievable, isn't it? Only in the civil service can you get away with that.
That's going on for what, 2 weeks a year?
Yeah.
Average per employee.
Well, in their case, because they only do about 2 days a week, it's more like 4 weeks, isn't it?
And then you could average that out with a bit of working from home.
Yeah.
You could probably average.
Yeah.
You could probably
3 to 4 weeks a year. It's like a month off. So sickness every year.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
4 million working days.
And they're quitting, and there's another page on page 14. 1 in 10 businesses say staff now quit after being told to stop working from home.
Yeah.
People just moving, you know, people just no longer, this is according to the British Chambers of Commerce, found that 9% of firms had employees who had quit over working from the office.
And these are people who say that these are demands that are being made of them which are unfair.
Because, you know, COVID's over.
Right.
The pandemic's done.
Yeah.
You can come back into the office now. No, I'll just quit my job.
41% of employers thought remote working made employers less productive. And I mean, look, we've had this argument for a long time, ever since lockdown, really. Mm-hmm. And there's no question that there are some jobs that you can do from home. Yeah. I get that, right? Yeah. And some people will always argue that they do better at home. I don't believe that. I think you'll probably be much more productive if you went to an office. But I understand that there are some jobs you can do from home. But mostly, particularly public sector jobs, in my view, should be done in an office environment, because we're paying for a service which we're frankly not getting.
Yeah. And this is, you know, when it comes to civil service, this is taxpayers' money, Mike.
Yeah, exactly.
This is you know, this is money that
it's our money.
It's our money.
It's our money.
Yeah.
Can we finish up with, I mean, Harry's charity is on the front page of the Mail. Apparently, damning probe into Harry's charity criticises all sides. Harry's not happy, apparently.
No.
And he's quit this charity. This is the one in Africa, right? The probe said it could find no evidence of widespread or systemic bullying or harassment, including misogyny or misogynoir, which is that really ridiculous word about black misogyny, apparently, at Centre Bali. However, it also criticised the trustees, including Harry, who resigned en masse in March after the furore blew up. So, once again, it's more bad news for Harry, isn't it?
It's bad news for Harry. I mean, a source close to Harry has told The Times, he's basically devastated that the chair has been allowed to succeed with a hostile takeover of the charity. I mean, the charity's done. And
charity's finished.
It's finished, and it's sad because this was this was set up by Prince.
It was
Harry,
meant to be in the memory of his mother, wasn't it?
In memory of his mother to help help children in Africa, and it seems to have. It's
collapsed. He's ruined it, as he's ruined everything else in his life. One final one. Broken Britain strikes again. Page 17 of the Mail. This is yesterday at Heathrow. Yeah. Queues and queues and queues of traffic and people, because apparently that tunnel, which everybody knows that you go through after you see that big plane, sort of model plane outside.
What could go wrong with a tunnel?
They say a technical fault.
How do you have a technical fault in a tunnel?
I don't know.
Well, you've got to turn on some lights.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'm not even sure they've got lights in there. I can't remember.
It's quite a short tunnel.
It's a very short tunnel. You get through it in about 30 seconds.
Who's running Heathrow? He seems to be like...
Danish bloke who likes sleeping.
He went back to bed.
To lie in.
After the whole place...
The tunnel's shut, huh? What's that? I was sleeping. I will have...
Don't interrupt my lying.
I know. Crikey. You should go to Glastonbury. Theo, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. We've got voice notes galore. We'll get to them coming up in the next hour, because this, of course, is the home of common sense. Nigel Evans coming up next, the former Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons. We've got loads of great messages coming in. Gary says, so 1 in, 1 out. Have we not reached critical mass? Why not 1 in, 2 out? Well, that's not a bad idea either. This is Talk.
My message to people smugglers is this. I think smashing the gangs is a deterrent. Smash the gangs. Smash the people smuggling gangs.
People smuggling puns.
He couldn't even smash an avocado for a piece of toast.
Or the people... What would that... The people...
I think smashing the gangs is a deterrent. Well, it might be if you smashed any, if you found any.
The people smash... The smash...
And he hasn't smashed anything. I mean, literally all he does is he smashes records every sort of couple of weeks, where more and more people come in a period of 24 hours.
Smash the gangs that are running this vile trade.
You're never going to smash the gangs. That's something that basically is impossible. The gangs are like the Hydra. You cut the head off and another 2 grow.
So I did write to ministers and say that I wasn't convinced that smashing the gangs was the right sort of way of thinking about things.
We will smash the gangs that undermine our security.
Keir Starmer has just tweeted 15 minutes ago. He says, I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. We will smash the people smuggling gangs at source. Maybe I'll just read it all in his accent, shall I?
There is no return to freedom of movement. We have left the EU. I do not accept that prevents us working with other police units here, with prosecutors here, to smash the gangs.
Well, sure, the smuggling gangs are absolutely quaking in their boots now. Keir Starmer is on their case. Solving this issue, smashing the gangs, is that the impossible dream, Tom?
It really seems beyond him at the minute, I have to say.
We're going to get the evil people smugglers and we're going to smash them and we're going to put them in jail. That will solve the migrant crisis. Prime Minister Keir Starmer's promise to smash the gangs has resulted in just 5 convictions. Hurrah for operating small boats.
So what he really wants to say is that this policy of smashing the gangs is a total and utter disaster. There isn't a cat in hell's chance that it's going to work. You just can't say it.
It's crap. That's what he's basically saying.
I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. Mark my words, I will take back control of our borders. That means cutting migration, ending the use of asylum hotels, and ramping up our efforts to stop small boat crossings.
It's like a parallel universe, the real world, as told by the impressive David Bolt, and Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves' fantasy world.
We will smash the people smuggling gangs at source.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. I'm Mike Graham. It's 3 minutes past 7. It is Wednesday, the 6th of August. The beautiful sun has arisen. And if you haven't arisen yet, it's OK, because you're in the school holidays. All is relatively well. As long as you weren't trying to get through Heathrow Airport yesterday, which was not relatively well at all. Once again, a technical fault rendered it completely and utterly useless. People were waiting for hours and hours on end to try and get from one end of a terminal to another. People were trying to walk underneath tunnels. People were trying to walk around perimeter roads. It was an absolute shambles. Broken Britain. Part 94. I don't know what is going to be the answer to fixing Britain because there are so many people who are running things in this country who don't seem to know what they're doing. To wit, the government, of course. I've got a piece in the Sun today about the migrant problem and about this one in, one out scenario. It's clearly not working. On day one, when they introduced it, they had to admit that, one, they don't know whether they can actually detain anybody or where they can detain them. Two, if they come here illegally, they're not sure whether they can deport them and when they can deport them. Three, they've admitted they're going to have to pay for them to come here and pay for them to go back. Four, they've also had to say that we don't understand whether they will have grounds to actually challenge any decision to send people away. And there may be legal fees, there may be legal court cases which drag on for months and months and possibly years. So in the end, actually the one in, one out scheme is worse than what we had before. Because all it does is now encourage more people to come to France so that they can apply online to come here legally. So actually, we'll end up with more people in this country, more people coming here, but this time they won't be illegal, they'll be legal, and we'll be paying for it. So it's complete and utter shambles. Let's get a voice note from Sonia.
To answer your question about in France, when the police stop people and they don't have an ID card, what do they do with them? They clearly take them down to the French coast and put them on a dinghy and send them over to us. Keep up the good work. Something's got to give because this country is about to break in every single way. There is nothing right about the immigration rules that we have here and our money being wasted. It's got to stop.
It really has got to stop because it has got a lot worse. The Tories weren't brilliant at it, but they were not as bad as this mob, I have to say. The Labour government have now completely and utterly abandoned all hope to anybody who's got a plan to do anything about the migrant problem. Look at the numbers. 48,678 Channel migrants have come illegally on small boats since Keir Starmer was Prime Minister. Since the beginning of this year, 25,436 have come, which is approximately 50% more than came the previous year when Rishi Sunak was in charge. And he said he was going to stop the boats as well. The whole thing is a complete and utter mess. We're going to speak to Nigel Evans, former Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons. Also, Rachel Reeves back in the firing line. She's facing huge tax hikes to fill a £50 billion black hole. Hang on a minute, I hear you say. I thought the black hole was only 22 billion. Yeah, well, they've taken that 22 billion and they've more than doubled it. So now we're right in the doo-doo. 0344 499 1000. This, of course, is Morning Glory. And Gary Lineker's back on the box on the front page of The Sun. The Match of the Day legend, as he's being referred to on the front page of The Sun, is going to work on a new game show for ITV on a Saturday night called The Box. And no doubt he'll be paid very handsomely for it as well. What's the bet that within about 2 weeks of him being on The Box, he says something else on Twitter which gets him fired? I'm just suggesting that might be the case. Let's talk to Nigel Evans, former Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons, a very esteemed member of the Parliament for many, many years. Nigel, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Yeah, not bad at all, not bad at all. Trying my best to work out what exactly this government is up to. And when I find out, I'm going to tell them I'm not going to pay £9,500 for the privilege either, because I don't think that would be worth it at all. But what on earth is going on? This one in, one out scheme has failed, sort of fallen at the first hurdle. As soon as it got examined by me yesterday, and I've got a piece in The Sun today as well, they can't explain how it's going to work. You know, they say they don't know if they can detain people straight away. They don't know if they can send them back. They don't know, basically, whether people might be able to challenge it legally. The whole thing seems to have been very ill-conceived and to be completely useless. It's actually now worse now because people can come to France and apply online to come here legally.
Mike, it's an absolute disaster. And as you said right at the top of the show, that the number coming in now is way more than it was even under Rishi Sunak. Yeah. And my previous government did not have a shining record on this, but this has clearly got worse. I've got an idea, Mike. The United States President, Donald Trump, has just done a deal with a country in Africa whereby illegal immigrants into the United States of America will be sent.
Yeah.
The country is called Rwanda. The United States of America have a Rwanda scheme where now illegal immigrants into America will be sent. Why, oh, why? Did one of the first measures that Keir Starmer take was to get rid of the Rwanda scheme. The French scheme is absolutely useless.
Yeah.
It is 20 in and 1 out. And if you think the one going out is being replaced by another one coming in, it's actually it's worse than useless.
Well, exactly. Well, because the end result is we get more people coming in. Somebody sent me a voice note yesterday and said, say, for example, 50,000 people come in over the course of this year, and then we send those 50,000 people back. They are then replaced in France by another 50,000 people who come back in. So the net result is we've got an extra 50,000 people.
Yeah, and it's not even sending 50,000 back. And the reality is, don't forget, we're talking about people who are claiming asylum, and they have gone through at least one, if not more, what I would call safe country. They can clearly not claim to be in fear of their lives if they're in France, and this is where they're coming from. And so these are not asylum seekers. They are illegal immigrants into the United Kingdom, and they should be treated as such. We're a soft touch, Mike, quite frankly, absolute soft touch. I think Kemi is getting it right on this. She is saying that we're not the world's hotel, and we cannot be. As you've seen, all those hotels that are now being used, the British public have had enough, and they are now protesting outside many of asylum hotels. It's completely wrong. And then some of them coming in are then claiming benefits or getting support from the taxpayer, at the same time as getting jobs with Deliveroo or various other companies, probably illegally, Mike. We know that. It's not Deliveroo that will be supporting them, but somehow or other there is a new business that's been created. And so people coming into the UK have got a job, and they're being paid for by the British taxpayer. And it's just got to stop. We're a soft touch.
Yeah.
And it's no wonder that the numbers have increased as they have.
Well, it's absolutely insane. I mean, talking about Rwanda, when the opposition, as they were then, the Labour government, the now Labour government, when they were in opposition, were opposing the whole Rwanda scheme. You know, I knew then, and we said it very often on this show, that Rwanda had already been a destination used by many people, including the UN, by the way, who had evacuated some people, I think, from parts of the Middle East. Denmark had already sent people to Rwanda from their country. You know, it was already a perfectly safe haven to send people to, and it was only because of some ludicrous ruling in the Supreme Court where we somehow managed to discover that Rwanda, despite the fact that it's advertised on Arsenal football shirts every week as a tourist destination, is apparently too dangerous to send, you know, some foreign criminals to.
Yeah, no, we've got to look afresh at this, absolutely right. And the United States of America are not only using Rwanda, they're using El Salvador, Eswatini, which used to be Swaziland, South Sudan. They're using a number of countries. And it's quite frankly, Mike, a commercial relationship between the United States of America and a number of other countries to be doing exactly the same. It is now costing us well over $8 billion a year to house all these legal immigrants into the United Kingdom, and they are using the European Convention of Human Rights in order to prolong their stay in the United Kingdom. We should be either getting derogations from that or withdrawing from it completely and replacing it with a British Bill of Human Rights. We've just got to take action, and all we're getting now is really speech after speech after speech. We've got Keir Starmer making little videos saying that they are doing stuff about illegal immigrants. Well, they're not. The figure has now doubled, and it's going to be over 50,000. There's 1,000 a week, Mike, coming into the United Kingdom. It's totally unsustainable, and the government has got to get a grip, and it's simply not doing that.
No, it really isn't. And if you want to, excuse me, if you want to know just how bad this government is, have a look at what Angela Eagle said. This was on Monday about the tactics that we are now using.
That is going to change soon when our French colleagues change their tactics. We have to change our tactics to adapt to the changing tactics of the people smuggling gang.
I sort of joked about this the other day that, you know, she's thinking about maybe a sort of 4-4-2 tactical formation going into a football match. You know, these people don't know what they're doing. I can't imagine how much worse this government can get. But every week, Nigel, it seems to get worse.
Yeah, absolutely. Angela Eagle was way out of her depth there. They simply do not have an answer to it. And of course, the people smugglers in France know this. And that's why the numbers are increasing at the rate that they are. It's a good business for the people smugglers, and they know that Britain is a soft touch, and they know that the government is doing next to nothing about it. And this particular scheme with France is nothing more than a veneer. It's a facade. It's for them to say that they're doing something about it. And no doubt, Mike, when eventually they do send the first person back to France in exchange for the other immigrant that is now going to come back to the United Kingdom, there will be a lot of publicity about it. But the reality is that we are now taking in an extra 50,000 people a year, and it is totally unsustainable. And putting ministers up like Angela Eagle to just waffle in front of the TV cameras, it's pitiful, absolutely pitiful.
It really is.
The smugglers must be looking at that and laughing.
Of course. And I mean, we had figures last week, didn't we, that came in on sort of the official migration figures, the net migration figures, that we've had something like 1.5 million extra people coming here in the last 2 years. I think it was 700,000 last year, and under the Tories, about 800,000 the year before. You know, and that's not just the illegal stuff, that's the legal stuff as well. And we've heard about all these ridiculous schemes of, you know, Nigerian storytellers that can come in on a skilled workers visa as long as they can tell a story orally, then they can get in and bring members of their family and live here for 5 years. You know, people who come here, they're cracking down on people who come here as students who are now not even pretending to go to college. They're just coming as visa holders and staying here and then claiming asylum. The whole system is completely ruined, isn't it?
No, it's completely broken, and the story even gets worse than that, Mike, because you've got the colossal number of legal migrants coming into the United Kingdom. Then you've got the increasing number of illegal immigrants coming into the United Kingdom, crossing on small boats. And then you've got the exodus of 13,500 rich people from the United Kingdom who are going to live in Dubai, or Italy, Monaco, you name it, because they've been forced out by the government by their excess taxation. So you've got all these people coming in, which are going to be cost to the United Kingdom, and you've got 13,500. It's going to rise to 16,000 this year, of people who were paying their taxes. They were paying something into the United Kingdom, spending their money. They were not a drain on the United Kingdom whatsoever. They were spending money on houses, on restaurants, on employing people, and the 13,500 of them have already gone. And so no wonder Rachel Reeves has got a £50 billion black hole, Mike.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was going to move you on to Rachel Reeves. I mean, she's been a bit quiet for the last couple of weeks. She's kind of been, I don't know if she's been having a bit of a summer siesta. But, you know, again, so they've stewarded the economy in such a bad way that we've now somehow doubled the black hole that the OBR initially said didn't exist, to the point where we're borrowing now 20 billion a month pretty much. And, you know, the 50 billion pound black hole for which she will want to raise taxes, I don't think the British people will put up with that. I just don't think people have been squeezed enough. They haven't got any more money to give.
No, but don't worry, Mike. She's got Neil Kinnock advising her. As you know, that great Labour leader of the past, who never quite made it to Downing Street, thank goodness, but now he's using his good services from the House of Lords advising Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves on what to do. And it's, of course, you have to have a wealth tax, even though 13,500 of the wealthiest have already left the United Kingdom and more are leaving. And then his next big idea is to tax those on private health, so that you actually are not a burden on the National Health Service, are paying to privately get their health seen to. He is now advising her to clobber them as well. I've got a new genius idea, Mike, because maybe this has never been thought about before, because you've got somebody like Lord Kinnock, who is on a massive pension from the European Union. It's probably, I think, somewhere in the region of 60,000 a year, which is the sort of money that most people who go out working every day only dream about. And of course, he sits in the House of Lords on £361 a day every day the House of Lords is sitting. where there is no tax paid at all on that. Well, why doesn't Neil Kinnock suggest that he pays tax on the amount of money, which is approaching $65,000 a year if he attends every day? He's paying no tax on that whatsoever. It's eye-watering.
It is absolutely ridiculous. Let me ask you one final question before I let you go, Nigel. Good to talk to you. This is Nigel Farage trying to talk at Prime Minister's questions recently.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The main reason there's a Bristol that this country decided in. Some of you want to get in a little later. If this takes forever, you won't get in. Nigel Farage. Thank you. The main reason this country wisely voted for Brexit back in 2016, and that included millions of Labour supporters, is because we wanted to take back control of our borders so that we and we alone could decide who comes and settles in our country. Does the Prime Minister understand that that demand today is even greater than it was back in 2016, and that we demand...
I've seen some heckling in the House of Commons. You used to be Deputy Speaker there, and you've seen it all, I'm sure. But, you know, it does seem to me, without wishing to be, shall we say, unfair to Lindsay Hoyle, he's not exactly enthusiastic about shutting people up when Nigel Farage is speaking, is he?
Well, every time Nigel Farage stands up in the House of Commons, he's shouted down by people on the other side. And why? You're going to call them one-term wonders, Mike. These are people who got elected at the last general election who never expected to get elected, and they rather like being there. And they think somehow or other, by shouting down Nigel Farage, that's going to make their job more safer, that it's more likely that they'll get elected in 2029 when possibly the next election will come. And the reality is that the Labour Party are sinking dramatically in the polls week by week. It's because people have looked at the policies that have been introduced by Keir Starmer, many of them actually contrary to what they promised during the general election. He was going to look after the pensioners, now he's clobbering them. He was going to be on the side of the farmers, and now he's introduced an inheritance tax on them. He was going to support the WASPy women, and he has done quite the reverse. He was going to support business, and then they increased the national insurance on these businesses. You know, one by one, all the promises have been broken. And so the people are sitting back and thinking they're not going to vote Labour at the next election. You've got to remember as well, Mike, that Keir Starmer got elected on 33.7% of the vote. He may have a big majority, but he has got no mandate for anything that is passing through the House of Commons at the moment. And it is pointless them shouting down at Nigel Farage, because people in these Labour seats are looking at what Nigel is saying and actually rather liking what he's saying. And that's why he's doing well at local government by-elections every Thursday. He's done well at the first parliamentary test that we had in the northwest of England, and they are well ahead of the Labour Party on the opinion polls. And so, as I say, them shouting him down in the House of Commons only really draws attention to the fact that they're scared of losing their jobs. And quite frankly, bring on the next general election. There must be a lot of people sitting watching this programme, Mike, every day and thinking, why, oh why did the British public put this government into power?
Absolutely staggering. Incredible how bad they are. Nigel, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Nigel Evans there, former Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons, Tory MP as well, of course. Karen has got a voice note for us on migrants.
Hi Mike, here we go again. It's a different day. And how dare Boris Johnson celebrate the Rwanda deal? It's because of him that we're in this position. I'm getting sick of him as well. I mean, trying to creep back into politics. He done this to us. He's part of the problem. And also, don't want ID cards. I know I'm not being funny, but how do you issue ID cards to people that you don't know in the first place? So what, you just invent a new ID for them, do you? I mean, it's just no ID cards, no migrants, simple as that. Just send them back. Put them in detention centres and send them back. This is getting really, really serious. We are in real deep, and I'm getting sick and tired of the rhetoric from the politicians. One in, one out. It's migrant washing. That's all they're doing. They're making the illegals legal. Another legal route that they've conjured up in their heads.
Karen, you're absolutely right. Fantastic. I love the little sort of kung fu sound in the background there as well. Was that a Ring doorbell? Oh, OK. That's what it was. Anyway, listen, Karen's right. We are in a very, very bad place right now. These migrants are coming in, and all that's going to happen is that the government is going to give them all amnesty and going to make them all legal. And then we're going to get even more people coming in legally, because suddenly they won't be illegal anymore because they've applied to come legally. There won't be any difference, of course, at all, but they'll somehow prove that they've got friends and family that live in Leicester, or that live in Blackburn, or that live in, I don't know, Doncaster. And suddenly they'll be coming in by the tens of thousands. And we will still have no room, and we will still have no ability to deal with them, and we will still have no ability to see a doctor, or to get a dentist, or to get on a train, or to drive in a car without being stuck in a traffic jam. There's too many people here. We need to take a massive, massive powder to all of it and stop it. Just stop it. Mike says, Tony, Rachel from accounts will need to substantially raise taxes to plug a £50 billion black hole that she caused. Idiot. This is talk.
You can't try and snipe at the Conservatives for things that weren't our fault.
Oh, I mean, I
This
haven't
is
got
not one.
time. Don't tell your big mate Donald Trump to tell his big mate Vladimir Putin to stop killing people, then we can solve that problem like that.
You won't be surprised to know I disagree.
Why? Why do you disagree, though? Why do you want our young people left on the scrap heap? The court's time being wasted, laying down a ruling on what is a woman. You and I have been speaking for far too many years about
And
this.
actually, you know, I'm very grateful to you too, because you have always covered this topic.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. I'm Mike Graham, with you all the way through until 10 o'clock. It's 26 minutes past 7. Alp Mehmet coming up, chairman of Migration Watch UK. By the way, amazing scenes yesterday when Keir Starmer unveiled a new plan to put a load of money into children's sort of efforts to not be isolated at home. Basically, Keir Starmer said children are too often isolated at home, with outdoor activities no longer being the default option for young people. He said there's a worrying trend that meant that children find themselves isolated at home and disconnected from their communities. Well, I wonder why he would think that. Do you think he might be isolated at home, disconnected from his communities? I would suggest so. He's coming up with £88 million for youth clubs and schools so that kids can get out and learn life skills that don't involve using a computer. What a complete and utter waste of money and time. Let's get a voice note from Sam.
Hey Mike,
I was on my way home from work yesterday in the car, and I got stuck behind this tractor, this really long trailer, and, you know, cursing the, oh God, you know, behind a tractor. But what cheered me up was this farmer had a massive sign on the back of his trailer, and it said, obviously I can't say the word 'cause it's very rude, but suffice it to say, F you, Starmer. I don't think he was very happy, Mike. I don't think he, I mean, do farmers not like Stir, Harmer, Starmer? Maybe they don't. I don't know.
Everybody hates him. He's literally the most hated man in Britain. I mean, that's the funny thing. I don't understand how he's managed to get to the place he's in, because nobody likes him. His own party don't even like him. Incredible. This from Sean in Bridlington. I'm 100% with you on border enforcement by military force, says Sean. We should have Apache helicopters and the Navy in the channel, stop them coming by any means necessary, and if any make it through, detain them until they are deported. Well, as I say, I've got a piece of The Sun today in which it says, you know, there is not one clue about the one-in, one-out scheme as to how it's actually going to work. And the one piece that, and I'm sorry to read out my own work here, but of all the harebrained schemes to smash the gangs, stop the boats, fix the system and secure our borders, this is perhaps the worst one of all. Because not only does it not do what it says on the tin, not only does it not stop people from coming here, it actually encourages more people to come here by legal methods, because they're going to get into France and they're going to actually apply online to come to Britain with their families, and they're probably going to be successful. It's incredibly bad. Alp Mehmet's here, chairman of Migration Watch. Alp, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
They've managed to construct a worse model than the one that was already in existence by creating a possibility now, it would seem to me, where families can come, whether they're legal or not, into France and then apply online to come to Britain legally, and probably be granted permission to come to Britain legally, because either they've got friends and family here, or because they can claim that they're, you know, in a vulnerable place and they're running away from something terrible. It's actually going to make it worse, isn't it?
You bet it is. You bet it is. This was rushed through, not thought through, and in the end, through this, it's actually going to get worse. There are stories also today about how human rights laws are going to be used to thwart removal. Well, no, Sherlock. How they didn't actually see all this coming, or perhaps they did, I don't know. The deal with France, I think, had more to do with posing up to the EU, giving the impression that we're now buddies again, we've kissed and made up. Well, I'm afraid that France Macron has really pulled the fast one on Sir Keir Starmer, and Sir Keir Starmer should be ashamed of himself. He really should.
He really should, because it's one thing to not have a clue what you're doing, but it's another thing to completely screw things up to such an extent that you've created the world in which we now live. You know, we've got migrant hotels up and down the country with protests going on outside them because people are sick to death of seeing people coming into this country and being handed stuff free on a plate, you know, when they're all struggling. What we're looking at here is footage that we got last week of the Copthorne Hotel down in West Sussex, outside of Gatwick Airport in Crawley, where people are smoking in the rooms. They've got four-poster beds. They're grinding weed up with their weed grinders, and they're smoking dope. They've got, you know, designer clothes, designer bags. They've got the ability to go freely whenever they want out for a walk, out into town, you know, to work. They've got 3 good meals a day coming in. People are going, you know, what is going on with these people? And if they're going to be moved out into, you know, private accommodation, how much money are we going to be using to subsidise them and to feed them?
Well, we're spending billions already, and we're going to spend billions more. This scheme, because it won't work, because it will become very apparent quickly that it won't work, the gangs that were going to be smashed are actually going to get an even newer lease of life. The gangs are laughing all the way to the bank at the moment. They're rubbing their hands in glee. This was something else that Nigel Evans, your previous interviewee, might have said. The one thing that they promised that they're certainly not doing now, and in a way encouraging, is smashing the gangs. I wake up in the morning and I think, what new stupid scheme, what new stupid things are our government going to come up with?
Yeah.
Well, this is one of them.
It really is. And I don't know whether you've seen this particular video earlier today. We put it on the show in the first hour. I'm going to play it to you again. This is from Spain, right? This is a boat arriving literally on a Spanish holiday beach, and the people on that beach tackling the migrants as they run across the beach. It's extraordinary. Have a look. And then there's a guy, a member of the public, restraining one of the migrants and keeping him on the beach there, waiting for the authorities to come. I mean, it's so brazen now that it's unbelievable, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but maybe that was Brits on holiday doing it. I don't know. They can't do it here, so let's go over to Spain and try and stop illegal migrants from getting into the country. It's daft, Mike. It really is. What I really, the only thing that will stop people from coming over here illegally is actually to show that getting in a dinghy, getting across the channel won't work.
No.
Until we can do that, until we can detain and get rid of them quickly, remove them quickly, and start by removing the ECHR from our laws, then I'm afraid they will continue to come.
Yeah.
The sad thing is, Mike, and Nigel Evans touched on this, is even the 55,000, maybe more, that are going to come this year, and let's bear in mind that it's not just those that we know about. There are those that we don't know about who are going to be coming across. Even that is something like 1/10 of the illegal net migration that is taking place at the moment.
Yeah.
And even there, the government is coming up, it had its white paper a couple of months ago, it's coming up with proposals that, if anything, are going to encourage more people to come here. That is really of long-term critical importance to our country. We are really putting a noose around our necks with mass migration and tightening it. We're killing ourselves. This is an absolute disgrace.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. I couldn't agree with you more. Alt Mehmet, great to hear from you. Thank you very much indeed, Chairman of Migration Watch UK. It is an absolute disgrace. Mike, says Christopher, these illegal migrants pass through multiple safe countries, but they don't stay because they have no incentive to. Stop the freebies and the handouts, problem solved. Gabby says this, Mike, one in, one out. The EU got their Rwanda deal and it's called the UK deal. We are being used as a dumping ground for illegals and we are paying for it. It's insane. Basically, they have opened a legal route to come to the UK in France. I despair. We are ruled by incompetence. Keep up the good work, says Gabby. Thanks very much indeed for that. And Phil in Coventry says, any chance we can get people smugglers to run our country? They're better organised than our useless government. Well, that's true as well. Coming up, talking about the useless government and the useless sort of infrastructure in this country, Heathrow Airport once again fell over yesterday. It was only last week where the airspace was completely shut down for 45 minutes. Yesterday, a tunnel was closed for about 2 to 3 hours and nobody could actually get to the airport. It's absolutely incredible scenes of madness. People walking down the roads, people walking around on motorways, people almost crushing themselves in terribly small spaces to get into terminals where they were waiting for hours on end for planes to actually take them somewhere where they wanted to go. Absolutely incredible. Simon Calder will explain it all after this, 7:37.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 7:39. I'm Mike Graham. Morning, Mike, says John in Poole. Macron must be laughing all the way to the bank. Another £100 million to get more illegals they don't want to England. It's so hard to believe we have such an idiot as Prime Minister. Cheers, Mike, says John. I know, it is hard to believe, isn't it? Absolutely useless. Completely useless. Let's get a voice note from Tristan.
I'm just getting up for work, and then I hear you say the B word, and I just laugh. But it's true. It's absolute rubbish. He says no more people coming in, and what's his answer? Bring more people in. It's just absolute lunacy. It's just insanity. It's just madness. It really, really is.
Fixing the foundations. It is madness, I tell you what. And actually the government is only one of the things that doesn't work in this country. There's quite a lot of other things that don't work, including Heathrow Airport. I'm looking at pictures in the Daily Mail today. Passengers lugging suitcases along a main road trying to get into Heathrow after abandoning their cars, basically, because the tunnel that takes you through, you know, from that famous place where the Concorde model used to be, it's now, I think, an Emirates plane, that tunnel that takes you through to, like, Terminals 2 and 3 was shut for hours, and it was chaos, apparently. It's apparently been fixed by today, but let's talk to Simon Calder, our man on the spot, travel correspondent at The Independent, of course. Simon, very good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, Mike. Exactly as you say, chaos. Now, for people who aren't entirely familiar with the layout of Heathrow, there are 4 terminals, numbered 2, 3, 4 and 5, and this led to the central area, terminals 2 and 3. So all the really big airlines flying in and out of there, people like Virgin Atlantic, Delta, United, Emirates, Singapore Airlines, loads of them, and of course normally would be handling up to 100,000 people. But the tunnel closed, I understand, because of a failure in smoke detection software, and that simply unravelled everything. What you would normally do at this stage is go send everybody to Terminal 5 and put them on the Elizabeth line, the line which runs into Terminal 2 and 3, but that closed down because of overcrowding. So rather than laying on more trains, they actually took trains away. So it's all down to the Piccadilly line. And as a result, we had scenes exactly as you described, people desperate to get away on their holidays. Also staff. I mean, I've been hearing from one member of cabin crew here. It was absolute chaos. Half our crew were late. Pilots were late, caterers were late, and they were about an hour or so behind schedule as a result of this. And the airport, meanwhile, and this was perhaps quite telling, I said to them, right, okay, what exactly happened? When did it start? When did it end? We think now about 4 hours. How many passengers missed flights? And when did the tunnel last close? And the airport said to me, a technical issue caused the closure of the main road tunnel into Terminals 2 and 3. This issue is now resolved and the tunnel is open. Heathrow is operating as normal. Nothing to see here then, is their line. But
was our friend from Denmark asleep at the wheel again, or was he being kept informed at every moment? Now, who knows?
I'm sure he was being kept informed, but of course this comes just a week or so after we saw the shutdown. Nothing to do with Heathrow on this occasion, but NATS, the Air Traffic Control Service, they had a software problem as well, and that resulted in over 100 flights being grounded and many people missing their holidays. So wherever you want to go, it's probably not a good idea to start from here, Mike.
So, I mean, for people who are travelling today, will they get to Heathrow and everything will appear to be normal? Will there still be knock-on effects or what?
Well, yeah, there will be, because there were lots and lots of delays, and I did ask, how many flights were delayed. There will be typically, if you were an hour or two delayed going out, that's going to hold things up coming back. That's going to lead to overcrowding in the skies, so slow things down. So you might pick up the odd half hour or 1 hour delay, but actually these days that's not too bad, unless you're going to somewhere like Singapore. And I saw that the Singapore Airlines flight out yesterday lunchtime was, I think, over 2 hours late. That's going to slightly scupper your connections to lovely parts of Southeast Asia or Australia.
Right, that is the problem, isn't it? And why was the Elizabeth line so overcrowded? Because people presumably weren't getting on it out at the airport, were they, or were they? Or
Another odd thing is that the main link between Terminal 2 and Terminal 3 is the Elizabeth line and the Heathrow Express. They use the same tracks, and because too many people were doing the smart thing, going to Terminal 5 in order to get the train to Terminal 2 and 3, the Transport for London just said, oh, well, too many people, let's shut the thing down, rather than we really need to lay on extra trains and let's put a couple of shuttles in just going between Terminal 5 and Terminal 2 and 3. Didn't happen. Lots and lots of upset and stress and all those things that you don't need. And of course, for an awful lot of people coming into the UK, their first sight of Britain, as they come in either to be on holiday or to conduct business or whatever, is a total shutdown of the transport system.
A friend of mine
can't get out.
A friend of mine came back from France yesterday, and I said, "Why did you bother? You know, you should have stayed where you were." Let me ask you about this story. This is a bit weird. Glenn Fogel, a bloke who runs Booking.com, you know, very famous sort of, you know, large travel site, says that, you know, because there's so many people wanting to go on holiday, they might want to introduce some kind of lottery system so you could kind of bid for a holiday, but you wouldn't necessarily get it.
Yes, I've been looking at what he's been saying, and just to put things in perspective, Mike, Booking.com isn't just a large travel company, it is by far the richest travel company in the world. It's got a market capitalisation of £100 billion, which I think is more than you earn in a year, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, unfortunately, I've given them some of my money as well, because I do use Booking.com, I have to say.
Well, yes, lots of people do. Personally, I prefer not to use a company which is taking typically 15% out of every transaction.
Is that what they do? Well, maybe I'll change my business then.
Yeah, they've got very, very good software, but that's what they do. Okay. Anyway, so he basically just says, over-tourism is a problem. It's not for us to say, OK, people, you can't come to London, you've got to go to Birmingham instead. And he stresses that Birmingham is a very nice place, but it's not necessarily it's not necessarily a dream destination for everybody. So he says that you can put up prices, as they've been doing, for instance, in Venice, or you can have a lottery system to just have a raffle to see who can travel to London or Venice or Amsterdam or Barcelona.
That's mad, isn't it?
Well, it is. It's a bit sort of, sorry to use the phrase, one in, one out, I think. But interesting that he is talking about that. He also thinks that we've reached peak Airbnb, because of course the great rival of Booking.com is Airbnb, where you go and stay in somebody's house.
Yes. Well, Airbnb seems to work quite well. I don't use it myself because I don't really like staying in other people's houses unless they've actually invited me, and I don't want to do that. But yeah, I mean, this is the trouble, isn't it? Where you get these kind of wokists going, oh, you know, we don't want you to go to Venice because you might ruin it. Well, if people stop going to Venice, like the Spanish situation, you know, people start complaining in Mallorca about the tourists, pretty soon they have no economy because the tourists don't go anymore.
Oh, certainly, yeah. And look, almost everybody thinks that inbound tourism is the best thing you can possibly have. It's the closest you will ever get to free money, because people come in, they spend money, they create jobs, they help fund amenities that a community on its own wouldn't be able to afford. Right. They pay tax. So from almost all points of view, inbound tourism is a great thing.
It is, absolutely right. And it broadens the mind, as we all know. Simon, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Travel correspondent for The Independent, travel guru, no less, from what happened at Heathrow yesterday. Absolute shambles. You know, things just keep falling over in this country, and you'd like to think that we're better than that, aren't we? Are we, though? By making it easier for these illegal migrants to come into Britain legally and cheaply, this is how Starmer will smash the gangs. Starmer has become the new people smuggling gang, says Alan. Yeah, I think maybe that's one of his plans, is that, you know, he's going to put the gangs out of business. A bit like legalising drugs, right? Legalise migrants, so then they're not illegal anymore. That seems to be the plan. 7:48.
And when GDP, the economy, is growing only very slowly, when it's growing at all, but the population is growing like Topsy, then the cake, there's less of the cake for each individual person. We have to be focusing on growth, and for me, the way to get growth isn't just to keep importing more people, many of whom will be unproductive because they're dependents. The way to get growth, I think, is to not keep raising taxes the way we are.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through until 10 o'clock. It's 7:52. Coming up to 8 o'clock, of course, we'll be talking to Andrew Sentence, former member of the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of England, very shortly, about Rachel Reeves and her new £50 billion black hole, which just keeps getting bigger. Let's get a voice note from Steve.
Morning, Mike. This is Stephen Hartz. I would take a meeting with a senior Labour minister to learn about creative CV writing. That way, I can go from being a council maintenance worker to housing minister, because I'm qualified for it. It's written on my CV. Don't matter if it's true or not, does it? Not really. Have a great day, mate.
Absolutely right. Imagine paying money to have a meeting with Jonathan Reynolds, the fake solicitor. Why would you? Why would you bother? Let's have a listen to James Well. We covered it this week, of course. James Well passed away a couple of days ago at the age of 74 after a long and terrible fight with terminal cancer. We've picked up another clip that we hadn't known about really for a while. It's a few years ago. James Wells was down at College Green when we used to do a lot of shows from down there during the Brexit years. Here he is attempting to eat pizza during an interview.
Chris, good evening to you.
Good evening.
This isn't really a surprise, I suppose, to you that Boris has become the new leader.
No, not really. We've been doing polling amongst the Conservative Party members after the poll leadership campaign. Both of them showed that we were heading towards a landslide victory for Boris Johnson. Of course, we've ended up with exactly that happening. You okay there?
Oh dear. Sorry about
You're
that,
all right.
Chris. Yes.
No, that's okay.
I don't know what has swallowed them, but
It's
I have
probably
some
the heat.
water.
Is it still hot out there?
It's very hot, but there are lots of little bugs floating around, and I think maybe I swallowed one. You'll have to do the talking for a minute anyway.
Lesson in life: do not eat pizza while on broadcast media. Definitely not a good idea. Let's talk to Andrew Sentence, former member of the Monetary Policy Committee at the Bank of England, because there are so many stories this morning around about the state of our economy. Front page of the Daily Telegraph says this: Reeves told to raise taxes now to fix a £50 billion black hole. This is advice coming from the National Institute of Economic and Social Research. Andrew, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Rachel Reeves has not exactly stewarded the economy in a particularly good direction, it seems to me. What's your take on it?
No, I think the root of her problems is that in the budget that she announced last October, even though the focus in that budget was on the tax increases she introduced, she actually pushed up her spending totals much more than tax. And therefore she's added about £100 billion a year to spending in future years. And she's only raised a certain amount of tax, about 40 billion, to cover that. So that is one of the main reasons that we've got this still this big black hole that the National Institute are pointing to. They're saying about 50 billion. And in addition to that, the economy is not growing as fast as the Office for Budget Responsibility predicted in its most recent forecasts, and therefore that's causing the gap to be even bigger.
Yeah, that is the problem, because we're now borrowing. I mean, when they came in, they started talking about this £22 billion black hole, which was sort of denied by the Office of Budget Responsibility. But we're now borrowing that kind of level of debt every single month. I think it was £20 billion borrowed in June, about £17 billion in April, May around about £18 billion. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yes, well, last year we borrowed nearly £150 billion in the financial year. Now, the OBR's latest forecast is that will come down to below 120 billion. But my projection would be that actually it's going to go up to somewhere like 170 billion.
Right.
So that's a 50 billion difference already emerging in the current year. Basically, the main problem that Rachel Reeves has got is she's increased public spending too much, and she's having to borrow that extra money instead of raising it in terms of taxation.
Yeah. Does there come a point, a tipping point, if you like, where too much money has been borrowed, and we do go back to those, heady days, as some might call them, of the 1970s, when we actually had to go and get International Monetary Fund help?
Well, there are some concerns among economists that we could get some crisis emerging in the autumn or perhaps next year, similar to the crisis of 1976 when the IMF were called in. Now, these crises never take exactly the same form, but there are a number of other ingredients that perhaps are worth mentioning. One is the inflation situation.
Yeah.
One signal that the government is borrowing too much is it's creating inflation. We've already got inflation nearly 2% above the government's target.
Yeah.
And then the other signal is the way the bond markets are reacting, and the government's having to pay more for its borrowing because the bond markets are not confident about the state of public finances.
Yes, it's a worrying time, and people are really quite concerned about it. Andrew, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Andrew Sentence there, a former member of the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of England. We do have what can only be described as a gathering storm on the economic front. Rachel Reeves, all over the front pages, doesn't really seem to have a clue about what to do. But of course the good news is she's the first woman chancellor, and women and girls will be looking up to her and wondering if they could actually do what she does, and hoping that they do a lot better. Let's get a voice note from Paula.
Morning, Mike. Paula in Liverpool again. Great show. This government are basically doing the equivalent of scratching down the back of the sofa looking for pound coins, aren't they? Taxing private medical insurance, they are really getting desperate. If all of these people don't realise, all of these people, who are supporting migrants, who are saying migrants welcome here, if they don't realise that the country is going bankrupt, that we're not going to have a welfare state pretty soon because there'll be no money left in the pot, there'll be too few people paying tax to pay for the NHS, to pay for private sector pensions, to pay for free prescriptions, what have you. If they don't realise that, we are going to go pop, and perhaps that might focus their minds and change their minds. We need to stop this now.
Yeah. Totally, not a minute too soon either. The claim by migrants that they have family here is another scam, says Laura. Smugglers can provide a contact here to pose as an uncle or whatever. A DNA test should become standard practice in processing these cases, paid for by the migrant or their relatives here. Absolutely right. I mean, how much does it take for somebody to go, have you got a relative here? Yeah. What's his name? Abdul. Where does he live? Bolton. OK, then you come. We'll see you after the news.
Is it transphobic to say only women have a cervix?
Well, it is something that shouldn't be said. It is not right. A woman is an adult female, and the court has made that absolutely clear. I actually welcome the judgment because I think it gives real clarity. It allows those that have got to draw up guidance to be really clear about what that guidance should say. If you want to fight for Remain, vote Labour. Now, there are some who say we don't need Brexit to work. We need to reverse it. I couldn't disagree more. Day after day, there are new allegations of sleaze, of favours, of privileged access. And it's all very well the Prime Minister saying, now, I'm paying for it.
You've decided to repay £6,000 worth of gifts.
Lord Ali is facing an investigation. I wonder how concerned you are that your biggest donor was not fully transparent.
Are you saying you made a mistake?
It was right for me to make those repayments. Thank you.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. Coming up to 3 minutes past 8. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through, of course, until 10 o'clock. This is the home of common sense. It's where the nation comes to talk, and you know what to do. You can send us a voice note to 0344 499 1000. You can text us at 87222. You can find us on X as well, at talkTV. And, of course, if you want to give us a call and get on and actually talk to us, you can do that as well. And that same number, 0344 499 1000. Let's get a voice note from Darren.
Morning, Mike. Darren from Suffolk Grey Show. It's amazing how stupid the Labour Party are. Black holes. Back in Parliament in May 2024, Keir Starmer stood up and said that they had would have to fix their £46 billion black hole. 46 billion. Yet when he got in, he said there was only a 20 billion black hole. Why didn't he stay with the narrative and say it was a 46 billion black hole? Now he's got 50 billion, it's only 4 billion more. This is how deluded they are, isn't it? It's all made up anyway.
Yeah, they just think of a number, double it, add a couple of zeros and go, oh my goodness me, there's a great big black hole. I mean, one thing Rachel Reeves has managed to do is grow the black hole. There's no growth in the economy, there's no growth in employment, there's no growth in anything other than migration and black holes. Brilliant. That's what they've managed to create over the course of just over a year in power. Reeves has been told to raise taxes now to fix the £50 billion black hole. And this is coming from some organisation called the National Institute of Economic and Social Research, on the front page of the Telegraph and the front page of the Daily Mail. The Chancellor is on course to miss her economic targets as finances head deeper into the red. You know, what is she doing? And does she know what she's doing? I have to say, I don't think she does. We'll play you a couple of clips from her from a bit earlier on in her tenure as the Chancellor of the Exchequer, the first female Chancellor of the Exchequer. Women and girls will look up to her and they'll all wonder at how marvellous she is. Except they won't, because she's not wonderful, she's not marvellous, she's absolutely rubbish at her job. Meanwhile, somebody else who's rubbish at her job is Yvette Cooper. She came on yesterday to talk about how this new one-in, one-out scheme is going to be the answer to all of our migration problems. But of course, what they've actually managed to do, and I don't mind telling you this, I've said this in my piece in The Sun today, is actually create a situation where more people will come to this country than ever before. And this time, they won't be illegal migrants, they'll be legal, because they'll have applied online to come into the country, because they know somebody that lives here, because they've got a relative that lives here, because they say that they're fleeing from some terrible, terrible war and famine and ghastliness and persecution. Well, that's what they used to do illegally. Now we're going to make it possible to do it legally. And that is the problem. And the front page of the Times today says migrants can use the human rights laws to evade deportation. So the out bit, which is basically where you send them back to where they came from, that ain't going to work, because they're just going to say, we need to appeal, we need to get a lawyer, and you're going to pay for it. Absolute and utter shambles. 0344 499 1000. Esther McVey coming up, former Minister for Common Sense. Front page of The Sun, by the way, it's got Gary Lineker's visage on it. It says here, Lineker back on the box. ITV swoop for Match of the Day legend. He'll host Saturday night show. He's going to host, apparently, a show on Saturday night called In the Box, I think it's called. No, just The Box, where there are going to be 12 celebrities put in boxes and given daring challenges. Like possibly saying, actually, I support Israel, and I don't think that Hamas is a very nice organisation. That'd be a challenge for him, wouldn't it? He wouldn't be able to say it. Alan in Middlesbrough says, I've never yearned for a return of Ant and Dec so much on a Saturday night than I do now. Having to endure the Lineker with his smarmy, smug grin means only one thing: more time away from ITV and the BBC and longer in the pub. I think we all sympathise with that. Let's talk to Esther McVey, MP, former Minister for Common Sense, of course, in the Tory government. Esther, very good morning to you.
Great to be with you, Mike.
Good to see you. I can't imagine anything worse than Gary Lineker returning to the television screens, but at least this time he's not being paid for by the public purse, so I don't really care what he does. But I bet you he doesn't last the year before he puts something on Twitter and gets himself fired.
Well, it won't be switched on in our household, and I'm not thinking it's going to be a ratings winner, but hey, we'll find out.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's another one that's not a ratings winner. I've never seen a bill or an idea unravel quite as quickly as this one-in, one-out cobblers, right? I was writing a piece yesterday lunchtime for the Sun, which is in the paper this morning, and I was predicting that it would all unravel. And sure enough, as soon as I wake up this morning, the Times has got a story saying, yes, people who are going to be kicked out of the country can avoid deportation by claiming human rights and by hiring lawyers and by stopping themselves from being kicked out of the country. You know, yes, they still don't know exactly how many people they'll be able to send back and how they're going to send them back and when they're going to send them back and how quickly they can do it. The whole thing is and in fact, what's going to happen is more people are going to come because they're going to get to France and apply through an online application form to come here legally.
You see, to you and me, Mike, and all your listeners and everybody who wants to stop illegal migration and bring migration down in its totality, we'd look at this contract and we'd say this has got more holes than a colander and it's not going to work at all for the reasons you've just said. However, if you were an international lawyer, a human rights lawyer, and think that's who's running the country, Lord Hermer, Starmer, you'd say this was a human rights lawyer dream. You are creating them more and more work, and they're going to be raking the money in for a long time to come. And do you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of Blair's government and the Human Rights Act he brought in. And remember his wife, Sherry Booth, another human rights lawyer. And what did we do? We created an industry for those lawyers. And this is what, to me, this is all about. They're not looking to stop immigration. They're now providing more routes in, safe access in, and providing a whole host of reasons we can't take these people and take them out of the country.
Right, and that is the problem, isn't it? So it gives the lie, really, to the fact that they wanted to somehow stop the boats. They didn't want to stop the boats. They wanted to smash the gangs, and that's always been the line, hasn't it? Because what they're saying is, we don't mind the people coming, we just don't want them coming illegally with people who are making vast amounts of money by bringing them here. But we actually don't mind bringing more people in, because effectively, you know, whatever the number is that they supposedly return, we will have that number coming into the country. So, as somebody said to me yesterday, if we send 50,000 people back, and at the moment the number is nothing like that, but if we send 50,000 people back to France, they'll then send us 50,000 other people. Our population increases by 50,000 no matter what.
Yeah, you see, they're trying to, and we use this word all the time now, gaslight the public.
Yes.
They're trying to tell us they're solving the problem, and they are not. We have rumbled them. What they are doing is bringing more people in, just giving them, as you say, that right to come here.
Yeah.
No wonder the public is up in arms. And I go back to, what are they doing? They're forcing this on us. They're forcing their internationalist views on us. Remember, these people don't like nationalism in any way. They're ashamed of being British, our history and our heritage, and they are keeping this international sort of view, because the best thing they could do is get rid of Blair's Human Rights Act that embedded the ECHR into British law. And no, they don't want to do that. They'd never want to do that, because they don't want to come out of an international agreement. So they will keep that, which means we keep having this problem with illegal migration. And that is my concern. So they're gaslighting the public, they're bringing more people in, and what are they doing? They're controlling the public here, they're calling them far right, they're bringing in a special unit force of the police now to see what's going on online. And this whole ID card, this ID card isn't going to stop illegal migration, isn't going to stop them working illegally. What it's going to do is again clamp down on British citizens, so they know what we're doing. And we all as the public need to wake up to this. Bringing Blair back, which is what Starmer's done. He's a busted fuss. He's out of ideas, and he's bringing the Blair institution and their ideas into now domestic policy. And we've got to remember what that man, Blair, did when he was last in government.
Yeah, I mean, incredible, isn't it? Because we see from the papers this morning, a story in the Mail, that Donald Trump has now found a way to deport many people. And guess what? He's going to send them to another country. And guess where it is? It's Rwanda.
Yeah, you see, we've talked about this before, and we've said, as has everybody who wants to stop illegal migration, we know what you've got to do. You've got to come out of the ECHR. You've got to get rid of the Human Rights Act. And you've immediately got to bring back the Rwanda Act, bring back the Rwanda bill. We should all be, as MPs, back in Parliament doing this ASAP, but he's not doing any of that. And he talked about Rwanda wasn't good enough and human rights, etc., etc. We're back to the word human rights. And yet we're seeing other countries have used Rwanda, and America is now using Rwanda. This is what we should be doing. We put all the infrastructure in there.
Yeah, exactly right. And now it's proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that there's nothing wrong with Rwanda. There's nothing dangerous about it. You know, they advertise on Arsenal football shirts, you know, visit Rwanda. The Danish have sent people there. The Israelis have sent people there. I think the United Nations has even sent people there. And now the Americans have. All we've got left with is the dregs of Europe coming to us. and we don't seem to have any interest or ability to stop them.
I think you were right in the first part there. They've got no interest in doing it. They don't seem capable of doing it. And listening to the ministers and Yvette Cooper, and they don't actually know what laws they're bringing through. They couldn't actually explain what they were doing. I know they use the word detention a lot and speed a lot and removal, but it will not happen. I have never come across a bunch who seem so out of their depth. They can't solve problems. They're not like engineers, and I'd call it. There are in politics. You'll find there is a whole group of people that make politics work. I call them, you have the engineers, the problem solvers, who see what you need to do, who then will work through the laws, how we're going to do it, what's workable, etc. And then you have the people, I guess, who go out and sell what you're doing. So that's simplistically putting the sort of how you get your political policy together. This Labour government has none of the engineers.
They don't.
It has got none of the economists. It's got none of the financiers. All it's got is talking heads, and they are now talking nonsense.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's give a couple of examples of talking nonsense. Here's Keir Starmer. He put this out last night, right, as if it was a good thing.
For the very first time, migrants arriving via small boat will be detained and returned to France in short order. In exchange for every return, a different individual will be allowed to come here via a safe route, controlled and legal, subject to strict security checks and only open to those who have not tried to enter the UK illegally. This will show others trying to make the same journey that it will be in vain, and the jobs they've been promised in the UK will no longer exist because of the nationwide crackdown we're delivering on illegal working, which is on a completely unprecedented scale.
I mean, what's he talking about? I mean, does he live in the real world? What a load of old cobblers.
Absolutely gobbledygook. And shall I tell you, these checks that they're supposedly doing, it's taken me months to find out from the Home Office what checks they are doing when they talk about their biometric testing. And just before Parliament rose for recess, I got an answer back. And the biometric checks they are doing are sort of facial images, photographs, and fingerprints. And I wanted to know, were they systematically taking DNA from people who were coming over illegally in the boats from Calais? And it appears now they are not, and it's taken me months to do that, whereas most people thought they were collecting DNA. So when you know there has been a rise in serious sexual assaults, can I tell you the perpetrator ain't going to leave that young girl and woman, as it invariably is, with a photo or a fingerprint. They're going to leave DNA on the individual, if anything at all. And they are not, as a government, routinely collecting this. So let's get this right. They can put them in a hotel. They can give them food, you know, accommodation, etc. But they are not doing DNA swabs. What on earth is this government doing? It is a disgrace.
I know. They've got no idea, have they? And let's have a look at Yvette Cooper trying to explain how it's all going to work.
The first time people who arrive on these dangerous and illegal small boats can be returned to France. They will be first detained. They'll be detained immediately on arrival and then detained and held until they are returned to France. And in exchange, we will take people who have applied lawfully, who have been through security checks and a proper legal process. I think that is the right principle. We're not setting out what the numbers will be at this point for two reasons. First of all, because those numbers will vary and will increase, and we haven't fixed an overall number for the scheme. We obviously want it to increase as much as possible. But also, secondly, because we're not going to provide operational information about which numbers, which days that the criminal gangs will then simply use in order to continue to ply their vile trade in human beings.
They just don't have a clue, do they? I mean, and suddenly they're now calling these boats illegal. For years they said that, you know, these were people running for their lives, we had to welcome them in and create sanctuary for them. You know, suddenly now they're turning on them. But again, no detail. She talks about arresting people or detaining people. We don't know where they're going to be detained. I was asking yesterday several people that I knew down in the south of England to see, is there a detention centre that can be used for this purpose? No, there isn't one. Manston is the place where they get taken. It's already overcrowded with the numbers of people that are coming in every single day. And there is simply nowhere for them to go. And when they then say she's going to send them back, we don't even know how they're going to do that.
Well, that was embarrassing. And I'm hoping none of the public are hoodwinked by the rubbish she was talking there.
Right.
It looked like she'd learnt it off by heart and was just just parroting what she'd learned, because it did not make sense at all. And equally, if you look at the contract, France can reject people they think are a threat to their country in any which way,
right,
or a threat to international relations with the rest of the Schengen area. So they can reject them. So that's a load of rubbish.
Yeah.
Equally, we've got to let France know within 14 days of their arrival, and they'll decide what they're going to do, I think, within the month. So there's so many loopholes. I'm guessing there's a get-out clause if we don't tell them within 14 days. And, you know, if we don't know, that's another way they can reject them. So when I told you about the engineers and the sort of just the PR people in politics, you can see there's no engineering at all in this policy. As you say, where are they detaining them? They do not know. What are they doing with them? They do not know.
Yeah.
They do not know the numbers. And then they come up with some guff that some civil servants probably told them to say, oh, just say, we can't tell you any more information because it might mean the smugglers might find out what they're doing and what days they're doing. Do they honestly think we are all that stupid and gullible? No, we are not.
I know, it's absolutely shameful, really, how ridiculously bad they are at all of this. Listen, Esther, great to see you again, as ever. Thank you very much indeed. Esther McVeigh there, talking common sense, as ever, about what on earth is going on inside the minds of those people sitting in Downing Street. The Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, doesn't have a clue. Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, doesn't have a clue. Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, doesn't have a clue. What they're doing is driving this business of Britain into the absolute gurgler. Reeves facing a huge tax hike to fill a £50 billion black hole, is what it says on the front page of the Daily Mail. She doesn't have an idea in her head as to how that's going to work or how that's going to be fixed. Absolutely incredible. They're going backwards and forwards on immigration. You know, 1 minute it's all good, the next minute it's all bad. 1 minute it's irregular, the next minute it's illegal. The boats need to be stopped. The people need to be detained. The people need to be returned. It used to be the people need to be saved. What changed? It's a complete shambles. It's 8:21.
You know what an AA does? An AA is the top assistant who expedites, because I've been AA to people.
Okay, I accept all of that.
Epstein's stuff.
I'm not questioning any of that. I'm not necessarily saying it's not true. What I'm asking you is, don't the Clintons have questions to answer on this?
Doesn't Donald Trump have questions? And this is deflection of the president.
Well, you're deflecting because you're not answering my question, Robert. Don't the Clintons have questions to answer here?
Are you shocked that Bill Clinton was a bad boy?
I mean, it's different being a bad boy.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, coming up to 25 minutes past 8. We're here till 10 o'clock, of course. In 2009, says John in Germany, I made the best decision of my life leaving the UK for Germany. It's no paradise here, but my God, when I go back to the UK visiting family, what an absolutely poorly run hole the UK has become. And Graham from Welling, he says, so when the 50 per week are selected, he's talking about the migrants, they will appeal and be here for years. In the meantime, we will still take the 50 per week exchange into this country. So great, an extra 50 per week coming in, give me strength. Well, that's the thing. No matter which way you cut it, this ridiculous new plan of Keir Starmer's and Yvette Cooper's will actually result in more people coming into Britain than ever before. And except the difference will be that they will be actually coming in legally rather than illegally. Let's get a voice note from Louise.
Morning, Mike. Louise here from Sheffield. What worries me is if they actually eradicate the small boats, let's not forget all the thousands of them that are coming in on the back of lorries and things like that. We're not paying any attention to that. What about if they do this deal with France and it's 1 in, 1 out, or 17 in, 1 out, however many it is? Are they going to be honest with the figures? Because I'm presuming they're not going to be coming through the channel. They're going to be coming in through the dead of night on planes.
I mean, just ridiculous, isn't it? Absolutely and utterly ridiculous. Just another illustration, really, and it says this in The Sun today, of our broken borders.
Britain's broken borders, from The Sun.
Now, far be it from me to big myself up, but I've got a piece in the paper today. Julia Atherley's joining me now, Home Affairs correspondent at The Sun. Page 10 today is written by me. It's all about the uselessness of this 1 in, 1 out policy. And as I said, I mean, I think I sort of sum it up best in the final, 3 paragraphs from the end. Of all the harebrained schemes to smash the gangs, stop the boats, fix the system and secure our borders, this is perhaps the worst one of all. Because it doesn't do anything other than actually make it worse, doesn't it? Morning.
Morning. So, the fact of this is it's actually got to work, and you've got to get people, for it to work, you've got to have, I think, hundreds of people being returned every week. And at the moment, we don't even know if anyone's going to be sent back. I mean, the numbers at the moment, the rumour is about 50 per week. That's right. 1 in 17 people coming across. But as we've reported today, the human rights claims, the lawyers that are going to get involved, in the same way that the flights to Rwanda never actually took off, these returns, there's going to be so many barriers to actually sending anyone back to France. I'm not entirely sure it's ever going to happen.
No. And the worst part of it is that they're now offering the chance for people to apply to come here legally. So when they're in France, they can actually get online, presumably with a computer supplied by somebody in Europe for them. They can apply online, and if they can reach the right sort of number of points, because they've got either friends or family here, or they're fleeing a vulnerable situation, or they feel their lives are in danger in some way, they will actually get permission to come here. So it's not then clear how they get here, but they can presumably then come to Britain and live here legally.
Yeah, we've asked the Home Office how these returns are actually going to take place. Are people going to be bussed over, for example? And they've not told us, they've refused to say. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it is going to be, they say they're going to keep it balanced. I mean, how they're going to do that remains to be seen. How it's going to be exactly 1 in, 1 out, we don't know. But yeah, I mean, people, and for those people that are in France, if they've already tried to come across the channel unsuccessfully, they're not going to be eligible for that. So that's still a huge number of thousands of people still currently in France that still want to come to the UK but aren't eligible for that scheme.
Exactly right. And I mean, I would be slightly suspicious, at the very least, of our ability to kind of double check these people's credentials, you know, because I mean, if you're dealing with thousands and thousands of people who are kind of practically marauding, we see them on the beaches of northern France, you know, are you seriously going to tell me that we're going to have some kind of capability to kind of have a booth or an office of some kind that they're going to walk into and say, these are my papers, here's my passport, this is where I come from, I've never tried to get to Britain before? How will they possibly know any of that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these people that are coming through those routes just don't have those documents, so there's no way to prove that. So yeah, we don't actually know how that's going to work in reality.
That's the problem. We don't know how much of it is going to work. And yesterday, you know, Yvette Cooper would not give any details as to where these people who are going to be detained when they come here are going to be detained. You know, I've been checking around the south coast of England, and there doesn't appear to be a detention centre anywhere near Dover. There's a place called Manston, which is where a lot of the immigrants get taken when they first come in, which is already overcrowded because it's a sort of holding pen, if you like, before they get moved off to a hotel. There doesn't appear to be anywhere that they've earmarked for detaining them. And then she says, Yvette Cooper, they will be detained within days, which means presumably they're not going to be detained at their point of arrival.
Yeah, so what happens when people come over in small boats? They first go to a place called Western Jetfoil, which is where they go through initial checks, they get searched, they have like health screening, very initial. Then they get bussed to Manston, which you say is an old kind of army barracks in Kent. And then they have the initial asylum interview, you know, when they sit in front of someone and say, I'd like to claim asylum. They're asked how old they are, for example. And we've reported in recent weeks that something like, I think it's about half of everyone coming across is claiming to be under 18. Or rather that half people that say they are under 18 then go on to be proven to actually be over 18. But at that initial point, the Home Office, unless they can prove beyond reasonable doubt they're over 18, they take them at their word that they're a child. And if you're a child, you can't be detained, so you can't be held under this scheme. So that's another kind of loophole that, you know, you can see it being exploited.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying this all week about a number of things, whether it's about the migrant hotel protests, whether it's about, you know, giving away identities of migrants who might or might not be charged with crimes, whether that's going to be withheld. You wonder whether, and even the whole Palestinian thing, you wonder whether anybody in Downing Street has a conversation with the Prime Minister or the Home Secretary to say, how do you think this is going to play out? You know, when people like you and I start asking questions, what answers are you going to give? It's almost as though they don't think it through and they're not prepared to actually explain what they're doing.
Yeah, I think, I mean, they've said they're going to be transparent and they've said they're going to release the numbers. When that will happen, will it happen? I mean, at the moment, they have a fairly regular scheme where every single day they announce how many people came over in small boats and the day before. Will it be as regular as that, or will we have to wait 3 months after the event? Are they going to tell us what's happening every day? We just don't know.
Yeah, I mean, bizarre. And let's we're going to play this just again for you because it's so ridiculous. This is Keir Starmer last night on what is going to actually happen, how it's going to work.
For the very first time, migrants arriving via small boat will be detained and returned to France in short order. In exchange for every return, a different individual will be allowed to come here via a safe route, controlled and legal, subject to strict security checks and only open to those who have not tried to enter the UK illegally. This will show others trying to make the same journey that it will be in vain and that jobs they've been promised in the UK will no longer exist because of the nationwide crackdown we're delivering on illegal working, which is on a completely unprecedented scale.
A nationwide crackdown on illegal workers. I didn't know about that one. Do you know about that one?
Yeah, so you remember we had our big investigation into delivery drivers working for hotels. And then they had this big crackdown where they came and questioned some people that were working there. And we've been back to that specific hotel, the one in central London, in recent weeks. And the bikes are now just parked around the corner.
Right.
I mean, you know, there's always going to be ways around.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't
without
describe that as
proper
I wouldn't describe it as a crackdown exactly, would you?
Yeah, I mean, it was a show of force, definitely. And they have definitely, I mean, the figures do show they have increased the number of illegal working visits that their enforcement teams have made over the past year. That's what their figures show.
Right.
But, I mean, you know, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to go down to the hotel. It's the one in the Barbican in central London and see that there are still people working there when they shouldn't be.
I know, absolutely extraordinary. Great to see you, Julia. Thank you very much indeed. Julia Atherley, their Home Affairs correspondent at The Sun, talking about the piece in the paper today by me about the whole business of one in, one out. The headline says the Labour plan doesn't add up. One in, one out, but not one clue about how it's actually going to work. And that's the problem, isn't it? Lisa Nandy, who is the Secretary of State, I should say, for Culture, Media and Sport, has been out and about defending the Labour government today. Here's what she said about tax rises to Sky News.
We want to bring taxes down for people. We want to help support them, put money back into people's pockets, and all the things that we've been doing as a government in the last 12 months have been aimed at that. We've given public sector workers a pay rise. We've raised the amount of money going into people's pockets by cutting energy bills. We are doing everything we can, pulling every lever at our disposal to make sure that working people not just are better off, but feel better off in their daily lives and ease that pressure. Our plan is to grow the economy, and that was the absolute central plank of our manifesto we were elected on last year. The plan for change that we've set out is aimed at doing precisely that.
More like plank for change, and plan for change. I mean, central plank is a very good description of Lisa Nandy. She thinks electricity bills have gone down, energy bills have gone down. They haven't gone down, they've gone up. They've gone up. David Miliband, Ed Miliband, they keep making promises that they can't keep. Ed Miliband keeps telling us we're going to be £300 better off some point in the future. We're not. The energy price cap came down slightly by about £100, but then it went back up again because they added on some new taxes. So nobody's bills are coming down. And also, paying people in the public sector more money does not make other people who are not in the public sector feel better off, I'm afraid. They feel worse off. That's the problem. Let's find out what's being said on the letters page at The Sun.
Letters from The Sun, the page where you tell Britain what to think. For more, visit thesun.co.uk.
And it's all about migrants. One in, one out is a joke, says Trish in Stafford. More than 25,000 migrants have crossed in small boats so far this year. That's more than 800 a week. But under Starmer's one in, one out scheme, less than 50 a week will be sent back. It's like bailing out a sinking ship with a teaspoon. Too true. And Graham in Kent says, what planet has Keir Starmer come from? One in, one out. On a single calm day, you might get up to 1,000 illegal migrants. Stop wasting taxpayers' money, get the Navy to patrol the channel and force the boats back. And there's an awful lot of that, an awful lot of very ill feeling towards this government and towards their complete bungling of not only the borders of this country, but of the economy of this country as well. Ian in Belfast says this, Mike, I don't understand how you can be in France and apply legally for a UK visa when it's always been the case that you have to apply for a visa from your home country, unless they are all French. Good point. Yeah, but this is different, because this is not a visa you're applying for, this is asylum you're applying for. So basically they're saying that we've now created a safe route for you to come to Britain by. So you basically can come from North Africa, from Central Saharan Africa, you can come from Eastern Europe, you can come from probably Afghanistan, Asia, wherever you want to do, and you can get to France, and then you can get yourself a computer, and then you can apply online to get asylum status in Britain. And that's what they're offering. And that means we'll get more and more people coming to do that, because there's a pretty good chance that they'll get allowed in. And then suddenly we'll have another 10 million people here. And then try and get a doctor's appointment. Crikey, 8:37.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to the Morning Glory. It's 8:39. I'm Mike Graham. The whole world's leaders must think they won the lottery when this incompetent LIBOR government was elected, says Steve. Each and every deal they do makes us worse off and endangers our security and our economy, and we're being laughed at by everyone. Well, you can't imagine anyone in the world looking at Keir Starmer and thinking he's doing a good job, isn't he? What a great job he's doing, leading Britain into the new millennium. I mean, for heaven's sake. Sarah from Birmingham, I've just heard you play the Prime Minister's tweet from last night. I'm usually filled with rage at just the sound of his voice, but I did chuckle at this one. It was when he said, in exchange for the return. It sounded like he was returning some of his Lord Ali purchased clothes to Primark. Have a good day. Yes, that's Sarah. Thank you very much indeed. He is the most ludicrous individual, the most ridiculous man, I think, who has ever set foot inside of 10 Downing Street, and the most ridiculous bloke to be put in charge of anything. I wouldn't put him in charge of a whelk stall, to be honest. Let's talk now to Joe Robertson MP, Shadow Parliamentary Private Secretary for Culture, Media and Sport. Also, Stuart Masson's going to join us as well, who's Editorial Director of The Car Expert. Joe, very good morning to you.
Fine, good to be with you.
Yeah, good to see you. We just heard from Lisa Nandy there, your sort of counterpoint in government, talking about basically how they're trying to get money back in people's pockets, that they've given pay rises to the public sector, that energy bills are coming down. They're sort of deluded in Downing Street, it seems to me. They don't seem to understand that the entire country hates everybody in government, thinks they're doing a terrible job, and making the Tories actually look good.
Deluded, whether it's from migration through to the economy. Everything they say just doesn't, not only is it not correct, it's just not credible. And this idea they're trying to grow the economy, yet they whack businesses, including small and medium-sized businesses that drive growth in this country. They whack them with taxes in the last budget. The idea that that's somehow pro-growth is just so ludicrous, no one believes them. And I think people are just so bored of listening to this. What they need to do is support the wealth creators, support businesses to employ people, hard-working people, and grow the economy. They're doing the direct opposite, and that's why we've got inflation doubled over the last year.
Yeah, we've got inflation doubled. We've got a £50 billion black hole now. We've got economists seriously advising Rachel Reeves that she's going to have to raise taxes before probably the even budget comes kicking in November. The whole thing is a shambles, isn't it?
Well, let's not forget, she's already increased taxes by 40 billion in the last budget. Yeah. She's increased borrowing by 30 billion, so that now just the debt interest we pay on that borrowing is more than we spend on defence every year and more than we spend on education every year. Yeah. So where we are now is entirely of her own making. So the fact she's in trouble, she's only got herself to blame and herself to look at.
Absolutely. But unfortunately, we're the ones that are picking up the tab for it, because we're the ones that are going to get taxed more. And it's really, really unfortunate that appears to be their only solution. You know, why can't they cut spending? Because their backbenchers won't allow it. Why can't they sort of rein in some of the spending that's going on in the civil service? You know, that's what they should be doing, isn't it?
Well, the truth is that government's basically now being run by the backbenchers. I mean, look, they wanted to cut the welfare bill. I support cutting the welfare bill. They failed to get it through because the backbenchers said no. I mean, to be fair, it was a blunt, unworkable set of proposals in their welfare bill. But the truth is that was $5 billion that the Chancellor was trying to give for herself. Because the backbenchers and the Labour Party said no, it now looks like she's not going to get any of that money. There was the winter fuel payment U-turn. In my view, they should never have slashed money from winter fuel. But again, the U-turn on that is going to cost them another $1.5 billion. So her headroom she created for herself, Rachel Reeves, has disappeared. And as we've seen now, reports that she's got to find £40 billion more, having already taxed us $40 billion. This is all on her watch. It's all on the government's watch.
I know, it's extraordinary. Let me play you something else which is extraordinary. This is Lisa Nandy being asked by Ed Balls on Good Morning Britain about this one-in, one-out deal.
So we're not going to see a repeat of the Rwanda scheme where the courts blocked it?
No, we've gripped all of these issues, and the Home Secretary has very painstakingly gone through this with her French counterpart to reach the deal that we struck. This is part of us rebuilding our relationships with countries like France and all over the world, because these are shared challenges. The only people that are profiting from them are the trafficking gangs who are making millions out of human misery, and we're working together, determined to tackle it once and for all.
You find it a bit strange that Ed Balls, who's married to the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, is asking a government minister about the performance of his wife, the Home Secretary?
I mean, if he asked me that, I'd just say, well, why don't you ask your wife, Ed? Come on, you don't need to go through me. You've got marriage problems if you need to go through me.
Yeah. But it's a bizarre situation. I mean, I can't understand. I mean, nothing against Ed Balls, but I don't understand why he's doing that job, you know, particularly when they're doing stories like that.
It's very odd. It's very odd. But also, Lisa Nandy was probably too honest there. She said it's about rebuilding our relationship with France. Yeah, this pathetic gimmick deal is not about reducing migration. It's about having a love-in between Keir Starmer and Emmanuel Macron. That's what it's all about. No one's convinced by this one-in, one-out deal. And if you read what it says on the tin, 1 in, 1 out means every time we send someone back, we've got to have someone in. Right. So if 1,000 people cross the channel today, we might be able to send those 1,000 back, but we'll have to have 1,000 more instead. Yeah. So it's just the same. It's
well,
just
this is it. We're actually going to get more people coming into the country than fewer. It's mad. It's completely mad. Joe, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Joe Robertson, we've got to run because we've got to speak to Stuart Masson, who is editorial director at The Car Expert. A story around this morning saying that motorists are demanding more changes to the law to make electric car owners pay more to drive on UK roads. At the moment, of course, they are given very much of an even break, so they don't have to pay the same kind of car tax as the rest of us do, and they don't get charged the same amount in any way, shape or form, of course, for fuel tax, because they don't have any fuel. Stuart, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Yeah, very well. Has the turtle turned on the electric car driver? You know, they all thought they were doing wonderful things to save the planet and they were saving money, but now, of course, somebody's going to come after them to pay some vehicle tax duty.
Yeah, look, that's inevitable that the electric cars are going to pay road tax and that they're going to pay more taxes to park and to drive into London and all those sorts of things over time. Yeah. What doesn't make sense is that you've got various patchworks of different levels of government implementing taxes here and offering discounts there. So you've got, on one hand, government saying that electric cars now have to pay road tax, they now have to pay the expensive car supplement if they're over £40,000, but on the other hand, they're going to give people up to £3,750 to buy an electric car. So it's not joined up thinking at all. You've got giving on one hand, taking away with the other, and all that you're left with is customers and consumers not really knowing what's going on.
Well, this is the trouble. I mean, I think even now people are not sure. If they're thinking of buying a new car, so for example, it's now 2025, if you're going to buy a new car in the next, say, 12 months, are you going to be hit by some kind of problem in about 5 or 6 years' time? You know, if you get to 2030 and you've got a petrol car, what are you supposed to do? If you buy a diesel car, what are you supposed to do? You know, is there going to be some kind of punishment? Nobody really knows.
Look, over time, we know that the age of petrol is ending. The only dispute and debate within the car industry is how quickly this should be happening. Are we moving too fast? Are we moving too slow? Or is it about right? Yeah. And there are some companies and some countries that are more advanced that have invested a lot in this, others that are dragging their heels. And every argument you hear throughout the media tends to be based on self-interest rather than what's actually going to happen and what's best and how do we help people through this process. So the reality is that over time we are going to see fewer petrol and diesel cars on the roads. We know that by 2030 you will no longer be able to buy a new pure petrol or diesel car by 2035.
Is that really true though? Because it seems to be changing that date, doesn't it? I mean, the date seems to move all the time, and some of the big manufacturers have say committed to that, and then kind of slightly gone back on it and gone, actually, we're going to continue to make the petrol and diesel cars for longer.
Look, I think if you can credit this government with one thing is that they have been steady on that date. The Tories went back and forth and up and down like a yo-yo. Whether you agree with it or not, at least the current government has been fixed on it, and the industry generally just wants certainty so that they know, because they're already designing the cars they're going to be selling after 2030. The industry works 5-10 years in advance. So what the current government has said is they'll allow hybrids of any kind through to 2035. So if an electric car genuinely doesn't work for you, you've got another 5 years of being able to drive hybrid cars. And this only applies to new. So as far as we know, and again, this will change at some point in the future, used cars will start to become more restricted, but it's going to happen. What we need is to make sure that we're helping people to make this transition over time. It is a process, and it's going to happen. As I said,
but
the end of the
nobody's
debate
actually asked for it to happen. That's the thing that annoys many people that I speak to. You know, the car manufacturers sort of in cahoots with various governments around the world who've all decided that, you know, we have to save the planet by driving electric cars. They've never really asked anybody if that's what we want.
That's true, but Mike,
what gives them a right to do it?
Well, I mean, that's always been the way. The reason we've had petrol cars for the last 100 years wasn't because anyone wanted it. The industry and most people wanted alcohol-based cars. The US Congress passed a law that said all cars have to be gasoline because the US had just discovered the world's largest reserves of oil in Texas. And over 100 years, that worked out pretty well. But it wasn't actually the best idea at the start. So I think this is a similar thing. The governments around the world have identified that we need to move away from fossil fuels. There's not that much disagreement on that. It's just a question of how much it's going to cost us.
There's a lot of
how long it's going to
disagreement about
take.
it now. No, there's a lot of disagreement about it now because what people are realising is that the cost of moving over to, you know, net zero and all of that is actually going to bankrupt the economy, and that's the problem. And so this idea that there's a sort of consensus that we should all drive electric cars, particularly now that the people have worked out that they're going to be taxed on them just as they were on petrol cars, actually is not such a great deal after all.
I think that there is an inevitability it's going to be taxed. I think people probably were misled by the idea it's going to be free forever, and that's the media as much as the Labour and the Tory governments. I think the biggest issue with government process, it actually comes from the civil service advising both sides of government very, very badly over the last decade and misleading the government and the ministers on you know, the Tories that introduced these plans and the current government about how much it's going to cost, how long it's going to take, how difficult it's going to be, and what sort of resistance there's going to be.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is an absolute crock of nonsense, as most of the government policy is these days, I'm afraid. But Stuart, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Stuart Masson there, editorial director of the Car Expert. You know, nobody ever told us that this is what we'd like to ask you. Would you like to drive an electric car? Would you like to save the planet? Would you like to take part in some ridiculous experiment which is going to cost us all a gazillion pounds to save a planet which is going to die whenever it chooses to die? I mean, have you seen that volcano in Russia, the one that hasn't erupted for years and years and years, absolutely going like the clappers, right? How much, CO2 is that putting into the atmosphere? And how many, electric cars are going to save the planet despite the eruptions of those kinds of mountains? It's ridiculous. The whole thing is absolute cobblers, I'm afraid. It's 8:52.
But I got to know him in the 80s when he had his television show, radio show on TV.
Yeah.
And
what a silly idea. Who would try and do that?
Well, I used to go there. We used to do it from, the north, but then we did it from Covent Garden. And I used to really enjoy doing the show. I don't know what the heck it was all about. I mean, it was chaos. But he was so different. That's what I loved about him. He was so different.
Yeah.
I mean, and of course, he was such a pioneer in a lot of things.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through, of course, until 10 o'clock, almost into the final hour of the show. We'll be talking later on about the Clintons, Bill and Hillary, subpoenaed by the not by the Supreme Court, but by the House of Representatives, I think, the Senate, to testify about Jeffrey Epstein and exactly what they knew about the island that he had down in Florida. Absolutely extraordinary story. We'll get into that. Right now, though, let's talk to Heather Binning, founder of Women's Rights Network. Story in the paper today about J.K. Rowling having a go at Marks and Spencer's, saying that we should boycott them because it turns out there was a trans M&S worker who tried to help a 14-year-old girl pick a bra. Extraordinary stuff. Heather, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
This seems to me to be absolutely beyond the pale, doesn't it? How is it possible for a man, effectively, to be anywhere near a 14-year-old girl wearing and choosing underwear?
This is quite outrageous, isn't it? Yes, another outrageous story. The poor girl that has suffered for this went, with her mother in all good faith. And the apology that M&S seemed to have issued to the mother they've not taken any responsibility for this being their fault. They aim to be an inclusive environment for their colleagues, shop workers, and their customers. Well, this is hugely exclusive. This is what they're not seeing. They should, I assume, an organisation like M&S will know absolutely what their customer base is, how it's made up, and they know it's made up of women and women that take in the lingerie department, women that take the young girls along there for their first bra fittings. I understand that this man was not specifically assigned to that department, and therefore questions why was he there? Right. What sanctions now is he being, is he being given some training in equality legislation? Are all the staff? Right. We had a member yesterday who went into an M&S store and asked about in the fitting rooms in the lingerie department, and spoke to lovely members of staff that were really uncomfortable with this policy that protected women and girls from men, because men are allowed in the changing rooms now. They're no longer male and female changing rooms. They are fitting rooms, unisex fitting rooms. The staff members are very uncomfortable with this. It is wrong that the executives can sit in an ivory tower and say, well, let's be inclusive, let's allow men to carry out these functions, but the people that are actually dealing with the front line of it are not getting any help and support or proper guidance. They're really, on the whole, they're uncomfortable. I dare say there's few women in the land that would be happy with a man fitting them for a bra.
Exactly right. And what about the Supreme Court ruling? I mean, what effect has that had on these kind of situations? Because surely that would have been made it pretty clear that a man who thinks he's a woman shouldn't be in that situation.
Well, of course it does. There's the privacy, dignity, and safety of women and girls. And they do get round it by having just a unisex fitting rooms. They think that that's all right. I dare say, I don't know for sure, but I dare say that they also are another organisation that are waiting for further guidance coming from the ECHR on this, on the Supreme Court judgment before they act. They shouldn't. They don't need to. They can come out right now and change this policy and make that clear to their customers. This is not new. We've known for some years now that their changing room policies allow men to identify as women and use the facilities. We've written, our members have had campaigned outside stores. In fact, just in January this year, there was two things happened in January this year. There was a man arrested for voyeurism in a Marks and Spencer's changing room, and also some women in Wales canvassed female users of M&S as they were coming out the store, and 97% said no, they did not want men in the changing rooms, and certainly no, they did not want men in the bra fitting sections.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's a bit of a no-brainer, really, isn't it?
It is an absolute no-brainer. It's a symptom of this man who, for whatever reasons, he is identifying as female. Now, it could be that he has nefarious reasons, or that he is satisfying a fetish that he has. It could be that he just thinks that he's more comfortable as a woman, but M&S are allowing this to happen, and it's come about because they have allowed him. They've said to him, yes, that's all right. You can identify as a woman, and we're quite happy with that as an employee. But what he doesn't, if he thinks he knows what it is to live as a woman, he's absolutely wrong, because what it is to live as a woman is that men do not approach young girls. Good men do not approach 14-year-old girls particularly in any circumstances, but particularly in a lingerie department of M&S.
Absolutely right. Heather, I couldn't agree with you more. Absolutely incredible story, absolutely ridiculous story as well. It tells you how crazed this world has become. Heather Binning there, founder of the Women's Rights Networks. Coming up, Sir Anthony Selden after the news.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, coming up to the very nearly 4 minutes past 9. I'm Mike Graham, and we are here, of course, until 10, the final hour of the show. Lots and lots to talk about this morning. Loads on the front pages. Rachel Reeves making it to the front page of the Telegraph and the Mail. She's told to raise taxes now to fix a £50 billion black hole. Well, hang on a minute. It was only 22 billion when they got in. They managed to more than double it. The Chancellor apparently is on course to miss her economic targets as finances head deeper into the red, is what it says on front page of the Telegraph there. We've got the Times has got a story about the new one-in, one-out scenario, where apparently migrants can use human rights laws to evade the deportation. It's all crumbling around their very eyes. I mean, even before the one-in, one-out system got going, it has been sort of condemned to death, basically, because it doesn't work. As we said yesterday, there is no guarantee that the people will be detained, I should say, when they come here. There's no guarantee that they will be deported because they could stay around and get lawyers to make sure they fight their case. Nobody knows where they will be detained if they are going to be detained. Nobody knows how they're going to be sent back if they are going to be sent back. I've got a piece in the Sun today, one in, one out, but not one clue how it will work. Here's what I say. Of all the harebrained schemes to smash the gangs, stop the boats, fix the system and secure our borders, and yes, Sir Keir Starmer has promised to do all four, this is perhaps the worst idea they've ever had. Absolute cobblers, ridiculous. Front page of the Sun has got Gary Lineker making a return to TV. He's going to do a show for ITV, apparently. It's going to be called The Box, and it's going to involve him and 12 celebrities put in boxes and given daring challenges. Sounds awful. But at least we won't have to put up with him banging on, apparently, about Gaza every 5 minutes, will we? Or maybe we will. We'll find out about that. Also, we'll be talking some more about Labour, the government, who've been offering firms £9,500 cash for access meals. Imagine paying that to have a dinner with Jonathan Reynolds, the fake solicitor. Apparently somebody did that. A lobbyist actually told an undercover reporter at the Times that they had a meeting with Jonathan Reynolds, at which all sorts of things were discussed. And, of course, cash for access, quite a serious charge, and not very good. Prince Harry back in the news as well. He's unhappy after a watchdog criticised him and others in the charity row over that charity in Africa, Sentebale. Prince Harry has accused the Charity Commission of sitting on the fence after it published a report that criticised all parties, including him, for undermining public trust in charities. Well done, Sir Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, absolutely and utterly as useless as you'd ever want. 1,000 pubs have closed since Rachel Reeves' budget back in November, and also the trans Marks and Spencer's worker who managed to get himself involved with a girl who was trying to try on a bra. She's 14, and he's a bloke. Absolutely shocking. Should we get a voice note or should we wait? We'll wait for it. We'll do it in a minute. This is Morning Glory. I will stop shopping at M&S until they do realise and respect women and the law, says Fiona. And on the car front, David Dorset says, car tax, our car was considered a luxury car 4 years ago. The vehicle tax is £600 for another 2 years. It's taken us 50 years to be able to afford a decent car. Well, this is the thing. People are going to get a bit of a shock when they've got these electric cars that they thought they were going to have for free and they wouldn't have to pay any road tax. Well, now they're going to. Let's get a voice note from Jeff.
Hello, Mike. Love the show. This is absolute nonsense, isn't it? Yesterday, right, Keir tweeted, my message to people smuggling gangs, if you bring people here illegally, they will face return. Well, why would the people smuggling gangs care if 50 of them are returned to them? Because then it's just more money for them to send them back over. He hasn't got a clue.
That's a very good point, Jeff. Yeah, I mean, they don't care. They'll be like, all right, we'll take you over again. What happened was you last time? £2,000. This time it's £3,000. And if you get sent back again, it'll be £4,000. You know, so basically, Keir Starmer is creating a system where the people smuggling gangs can get richer, where more people can come here legally, where our population just explodes into the ether. Brilliant. Fantastic. One in, one out. I kid you not. Sir Anthony Selden is here, political biographer and historian of Downing Street. Sir Anthony, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Have you ever seen anything so hapless as this government?
It's certainly not made a great start, has it? And
no.
I think it's made a poor start, and it has to get itself back on tracks, because there comes a point in every Prime Minister's life where they pass a point of no return and the country loses confidence and the political establishment loses confidence in them.
Yes.
And if Starmer doesn't start getting on top in the near future, I think he will pass that point of no return.
I fear he's already past it because
well, maybe
I know that it's not the ultimate measurement of popularity, but whenever I see his continual tweets and his continual kind of announcements that he puts out on social media, there is literally nothing but abuse under all of it. There is never anybody who says, "Oh, this seems like a good idea." It's always like, you're a liar. You're doing it all wrong. You're not doing what you said you would do. Promises that you made, you haven't kept. He's really, and his popularity rating is about as low, I think, as any prime minister's ever been.
Mike, that is correct. And the problem is, once you make a really bad start as prime minister, once you make a really bad start as any kind of leader, it's really hard to get back on track. And he made a bad start because he's got no experience of high-level national politics, of being in charge as opposed to being in opposition. And he also listened to the wrong people. And, he's still listening to the wrong people. So I think he really has to get a grip on boats, get a grip on the economy, and start showing a strong, glad, confident leadership.
Yeah. I mean, I think the problem is, generally speaking, for the entire government and other members of the cabinet as well, the sense is that they don't seem qualified. They don't appear to be on top of their brief. They don't speak with candour. They don't speak with authority, really. I mean, let me play you this. This is Rachel Reeves, I think, a couple of weeks ago, out of her depth at an Economic Affairs Committee.
At the same time, we also have a challenging economic inheritance with high levels of tax as a share of GDP, historic high levels of government debt, and then also economic growth that really for the last 15 years has been very poor by historical standards because of the weak productivity growth that we've experienced in that period of time.
I mean, that would not fill you with confidence, would it, if you were sitting there thinking, this is the woman stewarding our economy into the next sort of decade?
Well, Mike, the most important thing she needed to do when she became Chancellor and Keir Starmer as Prime Minister is to get growth. Without growth, you get nothing.
Yeah.
And if you then introduce policies as on national insurance that makes it harder for companies to pay for their staff and to take on new workers, then that is such a self-defeating move. So it is all about growth, and the predicament the government is now in would have been avoidable if only they'd started with a much better, more decisive, more optimistic, clear vision for the country, and with a clear sense of people in charge of departments who knew exactly what they're doing. Confidence is much more easily lost than it's gained. But when they did come in, people had confidence after 14 years of Tories, and they took them on their own promise. They believed that they would do the things that they said they would do about rebuilding Britain. So I remain an optimist about this government, but I think they just have to get a grip. Immigration, I mean, what is going on? The European Convention on Human Rights does need to be reformed, and because at the moment it is undermining democracy. Immigration is now the #1 concern of the British electorate. And if you have lawyers and conventions that are stopping the government having trust of people, then you will get riots, you will get a breakdown of confidence in the government and ultimately in democracy. And the pendulum has swung too far in the direction of the individual and too far away from the interests of the state and democracy, for all the compassion one might feel towards the individual caught up in this terrible drama of fleeing, and a lot of them may be illegitimate, but a lot of them are genuine. fleeing persecution. So grip all round, grip on that.
Well, the great thing is they can come here, Sir Anthony, and be persecuted by this government, because that's what they seem to be doing to an awful lot of the citizens of this country.
It's essential that confidence is restored. Now, this is not an easy issue, but Keir Starmer had 3 years to work it out. He could have leveraged his own strengths as a lawyer. Not too many prime ministers have a legal background. You would have expected that in this area, perhaps more than many others, he would have come in with a really strong, clear, compassionate, but very firm view. This is an issue that the government has to get in control of.
But he doesn't have it. Yeah, but he doesn't have it, does he? He doesn't have a firm view on anything, it seems. You know, he seems to flip-flop
you're
around.
Seeing there suggest, and the figures that we're seeing suggest that he hasn't got on top of this issue yet, and the concerns that this is having on people's confidence, not just in him, not just in his government, but in politics, in Westminster overall. He needs to get the country moving. He needs to get Whitehall moving. He needs to get on top.
Yes, he does, but he hasn't done anything right, and I think that's the thing that surprises most people. You're right to say that, you know, when he came in, when Labour came in after 14 years of the Tories, there was a genuine sort of, I think, feeling of goodwill from a lot of people. You know, they knew that they didn't want the Tories. You know, many people say to me now the Tories lost the election rather than Keir Starmer won it. But he said before he got in the very day of the election, I think it was, you know, we're ready for government in every single department. We are going to be a government of service. We are going to be a government that puts the country first and the party second. We are going to be a government of trust, of truth. We're going to bring grown-ups back to the room. You know, all of these statements that he made, all of which turned out to be complete and utter nonsense, because he was only in for about 3.5 nanoseconds before we found out that he'd been receiving all sorts of goodies from Lord Alley, and that his wife had been in receipt of clothing, and he'd been in receipt of pairs of spectacles and suits, and he was using an apartment of Lord Alley's and pretending it was his house and pretending he was making videos there, you know, and that was the kick-off. And now we've got Kemi Badenoch, the leader of the opposition. She was sitting in this very studio just a week or two ago calling him a liar. You know, and the Prime Minister of this country, regardless of what you may think of him, is a pretty important position. But to have everybody who is around him, who is, you know, in the business of politics, calling him a liar, I would say this is a pretty serious charge, and he has brought it on himself, because he and his cabinet continually tell lies. I mean, Lisa Nandy was on TV this morning claiming that she's reduced our energy bills, which clearly hasn't happened, and that the one-in, one-out deal is going to somehow reduce our problem with migration, which it certainly isn't going to do.
So let me finish by saying that democracy is fragile. Democracy is on retreat all around the world, and for it to succeed, you need to have women and men in charge who have confidence, who have honesty, who are learning from the best. And I think if I could point to one major mistake that Starmer has made, he was not learning from those people who know how to be Prime Minister. He came in with an extraordinary arrogance and disregard for the job of Prime Minister and for the people who he should have been listening to and leaning on. And, you know, those people who have done best for him, like in foreign policy, are those very people who know how to do it. He's gone back to some of Prime Minister Blair's people, Jonathan Powell, for example, on foreign policy. Many people would say that he's got foreign policy wrong, but
he has.
In general,
Jonathan Powell,
credibility and confidence in foreign policy. Why? Because he's been leaning on good people. In domestic policy, it's been an incoherent soup, a pudding without a theme. And, you know, the person who, you know, it's like a manager of a football team. If everyone is off with their own plan and they're not meshing together, it is the coach's fault. The Prime Minister is the coach of Team United Kingdom, and he is the one person who produces the plan, and that is what we need, because It's not just his future, or his government's or Labour's future. It is democracy's, ultimately.
It is.
Future.
But at the moment, he's in the relegation zone, and he doesn't show any signs of getting out of it, I'm afraid.
He's in the sacking zone. The thing is, there's no other manager around. You can't import a foreign manager, a whizzy German or a whizzy Spaniard or Italian to take over the British national team, you know?
Yeah.
They might have a very good prime minister in Italy, but you can't get Giorgia Meloni into Britain.
Funny,
so
I was
it's
just
a different game to football.
I was just thinking about her. That would be great. I think she'd be a tremendous prime minister. But listen, Sir Anthony, thank you very much indeed. Sir Anthony Selden, political biographer and historian of Downing Street. An incoherent muddle, I think is how he described Keir Starmer's prime ministership so far. Let's just remind ourselves of what Kemi Badenoch said to me a couple of weeks ago.
We actually had a video of how many times he had told lies at the dispatch box.
So it sounds like you do believe that he's a liar, though.
Yeah,
he is. Yeah, he's a liar. That's it. I'm afraid that's all she wrote. You don't have to say any more. Incoherent liar. Brilliant. Brian from Spain says this. What on earth is that stupid Yvette Cooper babbling on about? She's trying to tell us they will shuffle a small percentage of these illegal immigrants, not reducing by a single one, and this is good. She needs some balls, and I don't mean that useless husband of hers either. Matt says this from East Sussex. Why does Lisa Nandy always look like she's about to burst into tears every time she's interviewed? Does she and the rest of this useless government believe anything they say? I mean, it's not going well, this, is it? Great show, Mike. Do you remember when our paratroopers landed in France during the 80th D-Day celebrations? They had to show their passports. How will that work with one in, one out? Thanks, says Alan. Yeah, I remember that. Let's get a voice note from Liam.
Morning, Mike. Liam from Kent. Do you know what I don't understand about all this immigration stuff? The biggest thing I don't understand as a normal person is between 1939 and 1945, Winston Churchill kept the Luftwaffe, the Germans, he kept everything and everyone away from our little island, and he protected it. Now, we can't even stop unarmed men coming over in a rubber dinghy. We could stop the Luftwaffe, but we can't stop some rubber with some air in it.
I know, it's pathetic, isn't it? It really is. It's shameful. It's completely and utterly embarrassing. I mean, if I was the Prime Minister now, I'd just resign out of embarrassment and just go, look, I'm sorry, I've made a complete mistake. I thought I could do the job. I literally can't, and I'm now going to walk away. You know, Sir Anthony Selden said he's like a football manager. Yeah, well, it's time to sack him, isn't it? And get a new one. He's in the relegation zone, no question at all. He's going down. Down, 9:21.
The UNHCR itself tells us there's 18 million refugees out there, and 99.9% will stay on the border of the country where they're fleeing from. That's a fact. But we have to accept our fair share. What that fair share is, that's yet to be determined by Parliament one day. But the point I was trying to make was this agreement is a cooperation with the EU. It's the first time we've had an agreement with the EU, and they're not upset about us leaving the European Union.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 24 minutes past 9, with you here until, of course, 10 o'clock when Julie Hartley-Brewer will be along. Mike, is our Home Secretary really saying it's the boats that are illegal and not the people on the boats that are illegal? Can we now arrest and deport the boats? Jenny says, well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting, the choice of language, isn't it? Because these are still the same people that say that the migrants are irregular, but the boats are illegal. So how does that work? Esther's constituency, Julia, says this. Repeal the Human Rights Act sounds good. Shame Esther's government didn't think of that during their 14 years. Great show as always. With love. Thank you, Julia. Very nice of you to say so. Morning, Mike. If someone arrived at my front door with the intention of entering my house illegally, I would not detain and process them. I would repel them, says Andy in Coventry. I think most people would. Now, just before we speak to Danny Stone, MBE, CEO of the Anti-Semitism Policy Trust, about that ghastly Bob Villan and his performance down in Glastonbury, let's just have a quick look. We've been talking this week, of course, about James Whale. He died the day before yesterday. We broke the news to you here on Talk. Very sad news. 74 years of age. Had been fighting cancer for 5 years and many, many years before that, of course, as well. Here's his final conversation with Ash, his long-time sidekick.
I'm here at James Wales' trailer park garden, and he's having a little... Whaley, Wales, all right, man?
No, what are you doing?
I brought some nibbles, man.
You know I don't like those. Take those
They're
away.
not them, they're quite good.
I'm very ill. What are you doing here?
So how are you, man? You all right? What's going on? You're not well.
Do you know, I find that when people ask you, you've got terminal cancer, and people
don't ask them how they are.
How they are is really annoying.
Because you'll get the right answer. Do you remember when we met? Do you remember?
You were an engineer.
Yeah, 1995, and they said we want to put you with James Wales, and I said, what, the director of Frankenstein, the 1930s horror movie? It's great. And they went, no, the rudest man in broadcasting. But I still thought it was great. Go on, have a crisp, go on, bubbler. So have you anything to say about how great it is to be working with me for all these many years? It must have been amazing for you.
You know, I tried to find something to put in the autobiography.
But oh yeah.
I couldn't find one thing good.
There's more pictures of his horse than me. There's not one picture of me. There's a picture of his horse.
Say about you.
Yeah, nothing.
In the autobiography.
At least a little picture. Anyway, man. All right? Thanks for a great 30 years. I'm going to miss you, Bubba.
Isn't that nice? Let's talk to Danny Stone, who's MBE, CEO of the Anti-Semitism Policy Trust. Danny, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike. Thanks for having me on.
Not at all. Thank you for being here. Bob Villan, apparently his set at Glastonbury not only was revolting and ghastly in its inception and its sort of production, but it also sparked a surge in anti-Semitism immediately after he performed it. So the question I suppose I have is why do we not know what's happening to this guy? We don't seem to have seen much action against him.
There's no further news that I've had about what's happened. Certainly, I believe the US cancelled visas. He was dropped by his management and some of his representatives, which is, to my mind, the right thing to happen.
Yeah.
But this just goes to show how a public event, the amplification of an anti-Semitic narrative, has a direct correlation with increases in anti-Semitic incidences. And we've seen this before with the conflict in the Middle East too.
Yes. And I mean, it's extraordinary, isn't it, that we've reached this point in sort of what you might call modern civilization. I was looking at what was going on in Sydney over the course of last weekend, when there was a big march. They shut Sydney Harbour Bridge, and thousands of people decided to go out in the rain in Australia and march and wave. In some ways, quite a lot of anti-Semitic banners. It's almost become an acceptable form of protest, isn't it?
You're quite right, Mike. I mean, we see the report that came out, that has come out from the Community Security Trust, shows the anti-Semitic incident levels in the first 6 months of 2025. And in and amongst those incidents, there are examples of anti-Semitic banners, placards, or incidents occurring at protests. And to date, I've seen no serious effort by the organisers of the protests or from the stage at those protests to say, well, we won't have anti-Semitism here. We demand that those that are holding those signs put them down or leave our protest. In fact, the converse, at the anti-Semitism protest organised by one organisation countering anti-Semitism, they demanded that Tommy Robinson leave that march because they thought his presence was inappropriate. So there is a big job to do in respect of those protests and the anti-Semitism that is occurring and repeatedly occurring at them.
Well, and it's the Palestine Action Organisation, which has been prescribed as a terrorist organisation, which is now challenging that, will no doubt have more. I think there's supposed to be a protest this weekend, and they're supposed to be going to flood the streets with so many people that the police won't be able to handle it. It's a troubling time for Jewish people in this country, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, it's always important to, I want to reassure people that we do have laws and appropriate kind of regulation and what have you in place. But you're right, it feels relentless. So whether it be Glastonbury incident or the impacts of the Israel-Iran conflict at that point that we were seeing in the UK, or any other number of issues. I feel that I'm in Parliament most weeks talking about different anti-Semitic incidents or occurrences.
Yeah.
And so much of this relies on public figures. You've just been talking about this. Public figures, MPs and others, being responsible with their language, not engaging in anti-Semitic tropes, and being measured in the way in which they discuss the Middle East conflict too.
Yeah, and do you have any hope that this will kind of be reversed at some point, or is this how it's going to be for the rest of time?
Well, I mean, it's going to require a serious effort. There are various reports that have come out that I'd like to see more action on. So Lord Mann and Penny Mordaunt jointly authored a report which has a number of recommendations on how to address anti-Semitism. Lord Walney, John Woodcock produced a report which has a number of recommendations about extremism, terrorism, and how we address that. So it's going to require a kind of significant effort from government, not just it's welcome that they've reconvened the cross-government working group on anti-Semitism, but not that alone, to show tangible, pragmatic things that they are doing to address anti-Semitism. And at the root of all of it will be education and improving education on anti-Semitism in our schools.
Yeah. Absolutely. Benjamin, I've got to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. Sorry, Danny Stone, MBE, Anti-Semitism Policy Trust. Good to talk to you. Let's talk to Benjamin Anthony now, who's Israeli policy and security analyst, because over in Israel, of course, there's a slightly different effect of anti-Semitism, where they keep getting attacked by all sides, everywhere around them, whether it be the Houthis, whether it be Hamas, whether it be Hezbollah, rockets bearing down on Israel. The latest story from your part of the world, Benjamin, is that Benjamin Netanyahu appears to defy his ex-army chiefs, and he says that he wants to actually have a new Gaza offensive ongoing. What's the latest on that? Morning.
Morning, it's nice to be with you. Just before I dig into that subject, I want to draw the viewers' attention to the images behind me. These are the images of the hostage, Eviatar David, who was kidnapped, an innocent young man. It's being held in the tunnels of Gaza. The world has moved on from the images that Hamas released, but we have not moved on from those images here in Israel. We haven't forgotten. We will not give up. This is a young man who was forced to dig his own grave. It is important that the viewers see these images, and this is what this young man looked like before these depraved terrorists kidnapped him. Healthy, full of life, full of happiness. This young man and all of the hostages must be brought back home. Most importantly, they must be released.
Yes, and I mean, much of that seems to have been forgotten, doesn't it? I mean, obviously we've seen those images over the last few days, and horrific images that they are, and it has been obviously condemned by all good, sensible people, and yet by some other people it's been kind of accepted as part of the scores of war, if you like, or the inevitable effect of Israel's actions in Gaza, which baffles me. I don't understand anyone who would think that is in any way acceptable.
Well, you're absolutely right, and you said that good, sensible people are shocked by the images that you can see behind me. But then there are the foolish people who are completely lacking in a spine, people like the non-Prime Minister of once Great Britain, Sir Keir Starmer, who absolutely rewarded those who peddle Jew hatred and anti-Semitism, those who talk in genocidal terms in the streets, as I said, of once Great Britain, with assurances that if Israel doesn't come to heel to the diktats of this British government, in September he intends, Starmer, to go to the United Nations and to declare recognition of a Palestinian state that does not exist nor has ever existed. And the reason that this is so troubling is that if Starmer had any intestinal fortitude whatsoever, if he had the basic capability of standing up to the so-called bullies in his government, people like David Lammy, what he would actually do is he would have looked at the horrors that have befallen our hostages, he would have looked at the horrors of the massacre of October the 7th, and he would have declared thus: unless Hamas ends this war by releasing all of the hostages it still holds inside Gaza, the living and the dead, and promptly disarms, in September, Keir Starmer, as the Prime Minister of Great Britain, will announce that forevermore, under his government, any notion of Palestinian statehood will be removed in its entirety from the docket of British foreign policy. That is what he should have said. He is so weak, so spineless, so supine and so chinless that he managed to find his way to exactly the opposite of what is good and what is sensible. And just to go back to your earlier segment about the spread of Jew hatred, these people who are anti-Semitic, who are harassing Jews in England, Australia, and elsewhere, they were there before October 7th. But let me explain what happened. They saw the one sure thing in the landscape of Jewish existence, the state of Israel, as being vulnerable after the massacre of Hamas. And as a result of that, they thought if the state of Israel is vulnerable, perhaps the people of Israel, namely the Jewish people in their own borders, might be vulnerable as well. And so they became unmasked, they became unrepentant, they marched and called for the genocide against the Jewish people. And the tragedy of all of that is that not only have they learned that they can do so with neither penalty nor punishment within the borders of countries such as Britain, but in fact, as a consequence of statements like those of Keir Starmer, they will be rewarded for doing so. It's a dreadful, dreadful shame. And I have to tell you, this Prime Minister and this government reflects in no way whatsoever the wonderful country in which I grew up, the country to which my grandfather arrived just prior to the horrors of the Holocaust, the country that historically had been so very good to the Jews who sought succor within its borders. What a terrible turn. And I wonder how Keir Starmer might respond if somewhere down the line, as I suspect will be the case, there's a call from the town adjacent to the city in which I grew up in Leeds, maybe from the town of Bradford, for it to declare independence as the Islamic Republic of Bradford. I wonder if he'll be quick to grant statehood and independence to that entity.
Well, you do wonder, and the things have turned out so strangely in this country that you don't know the answer to that question. But isn't it also a bit curious that Starmer's wife is Jewish, we understand, and so therefore his children would be considered to be Jewish, and yet he has taken this particular stand?
No, to me it's not odd at all. I'm afraid that Jewish people who are addled and unsure of their own Jewish identity are as old as the religion of Judaism itself. People also should recognize the Jewish religion has a trinity. It has the Torah, our holy book. It has a God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and it has a land. That land has a name. It's called the land of Israel, and it's there that we live, and it's that land that we're protecting. And going back to your item on Bob Villan, calling for death to the IDF, there are two things people should be aware of. First of all, that chant has now spread. In St. Louis, Missouri, cars were burned in a Jewish neighborhood, and death to the IDF was scrawled on the asphalt of the streets there in the United States of America. So this type of hatred travels very, very swiftly. And also, I would say to Bob Villan and anyone else, you want to say death to the IDF, I invite you to come and try it. This is a Jewish people that loves peace, that wants quiet, that wants to exist in peace with our neighbors. But if you threaten us, if you try to massacre us, we are not like the Jewish wife of Keir Starmer. We will stand, including on our hind legs, in order to defend ourselves, protect ourselves, and it's in that process that we're in the very midst of right now. So it's very easy to spread rhetoric and nonsense from a stage among stoned concert attendees in Glastonbury. You come and try it, Mr. Villan, and you will see just how determined the members of the IDF, who are the people of Israel, how determined they are to prevent any such chance from ever becoming reality again.
Well said. Benjamin, thank you very much for talking to us. Benjamin Anthony, the Israeli policy and security analyst, making some incredibly good and powerful points there about what is going on in that part of the world. We'll keep you updated, of course, with all of that as it happens. Coming up, we're going to be finding out what's going on with the Clintons. They've been asked to appear to testify in front of Congress about the Jeffrey Epstein investigation. First, though, a voice note from Richard.
Hi Mike, Richard in Macclesfield. One good thing that could be done to quickly solve a few issues is to shut down or seize the assets of these delivery firms who are one suspects employing illegals. It teach the companies a lesson from hiring them, but also puts a strong message out there. Cheers.
Absolutely, no problem, Richard. Thank you very much indeed. Wayne says this: after serving the UK for 22 years of my life in the army, I'm disgusted in the way the government are not doing anything to stop the influx of fighting-age males into the country. What a bunch of fresh-air thieves. Glad I don't live in the UK anymore, and I doubt I will ever come back to live there. But free board and lodging, healthcare and pocket money, and why wouldn't you try to get to the UK? But if I wanted to bring my wife, I would have to be earning about £29,000 a year. Absolutely outrageous, says Wayne. Wayne, thank you very much for that. We'll bring you more coming up after this on Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through, of course, until 10 o'clock. And this is only about another 10 minutes or so, maybe 15. And of course, Julie Hartley-Brewer will be here as well. We're going to speak to Heidi Hommel very shortly, KTAR news reporter in Phoenix, Arizona. First of all, a voice note from Kieran.
Hey, Mike, how you doing? Just a quick one while you're on the economy. This imbecilic government the other day announced that they're going to help small businesses. They're going to back us by cracking down on people who are paying late. So late payers are in big trouble. However, the reason why people are paying late is because they've got no money. And they've got no money because the government have literally crowbarred any cash that they had floating around and busted it out of their pockets and put it into absolutely pointless causes, which will prove to have no return on investment. Now, you can't run a country at a 94% deficit of GDP. It's impossible. A small business can't even run at a 1% loss. So how the hell can a whole country run at a 94% deficit? Rachel's got to go. She is literally the worst chancellor you could possibly imagine. It's like complaining about being too hot and the government say, don't worry, we'll fix that, and they turn the heating up. Madness, man. Right, cheers, Kieran.
Kieran, absolutely right. She has got to go. Absolutely, absolutely right. Just before we talk to Heidi, let's have a look at this. Donald Trump apparently was walking on the White House roof yesterday. Something to do with the ballroom, I think. Check it out.
Mr. President, what are you doing up there? Taking a little room. Come down and talk to us. Yeah. What are you building? Garden, look. With the ballroom, which is on the other side. Are you considering more renovations, sir? Well, Peter.
Are you going to build up?
Aye, sir.
Every day's a new adventure with Donald Trump in the White House, isn't it? You just never know where he's going to turn up. There he is, walking around on the roof. They've got snipers up there last time I was there. It's amazing. Incredible place. Heidi Hommel's here from KTAR News in Phoenix, Arizona. Heidi, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
Thanks for joining us. Really strange to see Donald Trump just wandering around the roof like that, but I guess it's his house, so he can do what he wants, right?
Yeah, I hadn't seen that clip. That's so funny. That ballroom should be something.
It really should. Let's talk about the Clintons, though. There's a bit of a shock story came out late yesterday over here. Former president's ties to the paedophile financier Jeffrey Epstein laid out by the House committee in a letter. They've subpoenaed basically him and Hillary. What's going to happen, do you think?
So yes, they're going to have to do depositions next month. This House Oversight Committee, they're looking into how the prosecution of Jeffrey Epstein was handled. And not only have they subpoenaed the Clintons, they've subpoenaed former FBI directors and former attorney generals dating back from the Bush administration to the Obama administration to the former Trump administration and even the Biden administration.
Right. So in their kind of attempts to try and find out what happened, what sort of depths can they go to? I mean, what sort of, I suppose, what kind of powers do they have?
Well, so Bill Clinton, he was president before Epstein was ever being investigated by the federal government. Right. But the two of them, they did know each other. You know, there are reports that he was on his plane, as did former President Trump knew Epstein as well. So they're going to look into kind of what that relationship was. Hillary Clinton, she was the Secretary of State. So it's kind of unclear why she has been subpoenaed, but they're really trying to just uncover more information about the extent of the Clintons' relationship with Jeffrey Epstein.
Right, because I'm seeing that a letter was sent to him, to Bill Clinton, detailing his ties to Epstein, including his close relationship with Ghislaine Maxwell. And she said, and the letter says, by your own admission, you flew on Jeffrey Epstein's private plane 4 separate times in 2002 and 2003. During one of these trips, you were even pictured receiving a massage from one of Mr. Epstein's victims.
Yes, and Clinton has said that he did know Epstein, that the two of them were friends, but he has said in a statement he didn't know anything about Epstein's crimes, his sex trafficking crimes, had no idea about it.
Right. And, I mean, obviously there's an awful lot of big names that have been linked with Epstein, and many people have always said, you know, how is it that, you know, Epstein gets charged, Ghislaine Maxwell goes to prison, Epstein gets convicted, he ends up dying in prison, but nobody else has really been touched by it. Is this the beginning of something where we might see perhaps more, you know, charges kind of being laid out?
Who really knows? And I think that is the frustrating thing for Americans. They just kind of want answers, you know, to the extent of the crimes who all knew him. Trump really ran on this, releasing the Epstein files or this client list, and the Department of Justice has said there is no client list. Now the DOJ or Attorney General Pam Bondi has said that Trump's name does appear in the Epstein files. This doesn't mean that he's done anything wrong. It just means that his name is in there.
Right. And there may not be a client list, but is there not supposed to be some kind of black book that had a load of names and phone numbers in it?
Exactly, but would that be in the Epstein files? And the White House is not releasing the Epstein files, which has some Americans frustrated.
Right.
But you can't release these files in their entirety. The White House press secretary has said there's child pornography in here, so it would have to be redacted.
Yeah, okay. And so when does all this kind of kick off? Will we see the Clintons sort of walking into Congress, and will we see them? Will it be like one of those Senate hearings that we all like to watch every now and again? Will Bill Clinton be sitting there, with his lawyer sweating?
I do believe it will be a public depositions. Depositions are supposed to start middle of this month, and they're going to go into the fall. So I believe the Clintons will be deposed next month.
Right. Okay. Well, it's going to be fascinating to see. And I mean, I'd like to be more high-profile names coming out and more people having to give depositions.
I believe this is just the first round of depositions. I don't know if there's going to be any more. But as for more high-profile people being deposed, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, absolutely. Fascinating stuff. Heidi, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Heidi Hommel there, KTAR news reporter in Phoenix, Arizona. Are we not on a war footing, says this message? Then people arriving with no papers should be arrested as suspected spies. These people have 2 months to provide absolute proof of who they really are, and if they can't, they should be treated the same way as spies were treated in World War II. It is actually a war footing. Surely, says George, it's about time these boat routes across the Channel were put out to tender. Oh no, I forgot they're sponsored by the Anglo-French government, so anyone here wishing to bid can't compete. And Graham from Welling says, so when the 50 per week are selected, they will appeal and be here for years. In the meantime, we will still take the 50 per week exchange into this country. So great, an extra 50 per week coming in. Give me strength. Well, that's the thing. Absolutely extraordinary. Let's get a voice note from James.
Good morning, Mike. Now, I never thought I'd say this, Mike, but I'm considering leaving the UK because I'm getting sick to death of working 2 jobs for next to nothing now. I've got no problem working hard, Mike, but when it's next to nothing, what's the point? Also, Mike, these immigrants, I've just seen that footage of those immigrants filming with their phone, laughing at us. I mean, that's the limit of all limits, Mike. Do you know what, Mike? This country is run by absolute clowns, absolute numbskulls, a lot of them. Anyway, Mike, have a good day.
James, let's hope you don't leave. But listen, I totally understand if you do. And you're right, it is run by clowns. This whole place is going to hell in a handcart, thanks to the government. Natasha says this morning, Mike, we were on holiday in Greece, in Lesbos, in 2015. One evening while having supper, we were all stunned to see a boat full of migrants land on the beach and run past us all up the side of the hotel and disappear. A small Greek truck then went down and collected the outboard motor, so they were obviously used to this. It's been going on for years. Yeah, I think that's right. I remember seeing boats coming into various different parts of southern Spain, people jumping out of them and running up the beach. Yeah, it has been going on for years, but I've been saying for years that this is the #1 concern for people in Britain and for people in Europe. And people used to poo-poo me, down in the old tent of shame back in 2019. People would go, immigration's not even anywhere near the top 3 things that people care about. It's all about the economy. Well, not anymore, it ain't. And it never was then either, by the way. Barry says, morning, Mike. Incredible that many countries are now advising their citizens to be cautious when visiting the UK, and especially London, due to the breakdown in law and order. Mexico are currently advising their nationals to use caution when travelling to the United Kingdom. Mexico. You couldn't make it up. Exactly right. This is Talk.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. I'm Mike Graham. This, of course, is the one and only home of common sense. It is the Morning Glory at Talk, followed by Julie Hartley-Brewer, followed by Ian Collins, and, of course, the rest of the day continues with great deals of common sense every single minute of the day. Good morning, Mike. I will complete a Rubik's Cube blindfold before this government sort out the migration crisis, says Andy in Bridgend. Now, that would be something to see, wouldn't it? Let's get a voice note from Andrea.
Hi Mike, Andrea from Ridgewell in Essex. I have had enough with this lot. The Prime Minister, the Chancellor and the Deputy Prime Minister should form a new firm of solicitors and call themselves imbecile, cretin and moron. Absolute shower.
Absolutely true. You can't argue with that. Brad says this in Cambridge. When you say that Starmer should resign out of embarrassment, you're forgetting that he thinks he's doing a good job. He's achieving what he wants to do. I'll have to check in and see what his latest tweet is actually this morning. I haven't checked that yet. Let's talk to David, who's in Exeter. Hi, David.
Hi, Mike.
Hey.
Well, the firm you're dealing with, the Marxist socialist firm, is Blair, Powell and Starmer.
Yes.
Just following on from what Esther McVeigh was talking about earlier about sort of Blair and so on. Well, he's not really left, because if you look at the key positions in effectively what's the board of the government, the tops of permanent secretaries, particularly where Antonio Romero is concerned at the Home Office. So a lot of the public's gripes at the moment are about borders, immigration, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Antonio is the principal officer there in charge, so she has more power than Yvette Cooper. So can I suggest to everyone, the focus of attention and the challenging and the questioning needs to go on to Antonia.
Yes.
What are you doing? What's her vision of national security, and what's her concept of national security? Because she carries the weight of this with running MI5 and the police.
Yeah.
So along with Jonathan Powell, the National Security Advisor, another ex-Blair.
Yeah, the guy who gave away the Chagos Islands.
Who gave away the Chagos. What's his? Let's ask him. What's his concept of national security? What's his idea of the jurisdiction? Does he, when he says national, Mike, does he think he means Britain or the EU or the world?
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah, it's a good question, a very good question. David, thank you very much indeed. David Exeter making a great deal of sense there. These major senior civil servants, what do they do? Julie Hartley-Brewer's here.
Very good. Well, they're mostly working from home.
Working from home.
But
they've got this vision, though, but he's asking, what's their vision for Britain? Because we
I don't want them to have a vision for Britain. I want them to do their job of being a civil servant.
Right.
Keyword there is servant. Do as you're sodding well told by the people who are elected. Now, we may not agree with a lot of the things the people who are elected do, but you still have to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And they are elected, let's face it. I mean, for good or ill, you know, we all thought that they wouldn't do very many things that we would like.
No.
We didn't know they would screw it up quite as much
I mean,
as this.
no one could possibly
this one in, one out thing has unravelled before it even
it's
started.
17 in, one out, and another, one of the ones coming in is going to be able to bring all their family members. I mean, the whole thing is insane. And again, these human rights challenges. Well, listen, Andy, representing the government today, is absolutely categoric. No, these human rights challenges won't be allowed. Of course
they will. Yeah.
What's changed?
Yeah, I know.
It's in the treaty that
Nothing's
those human
changed.
rights.
So now what we've got is
some 47-year-old blokes be able to go. Oh no, I'm 17.
Yeah.
And at that point.